Have a great day.
Maligayang umaga. Good morning. Happy Friday, Manitoba. Faith Fundal here in Studio 15 at Portage and Spence. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. I'm in for Marcy Marcusa this morning. Abby Adiemi is our technician today. May McKillop is our studio director. Kevin Nipatebo is our streaming producer as well. Lots to come on the program. We'll talk about what is to come. First, though, let's head to our CBC Winnipeg local news desk, and Heather Wells joining us now. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, confusion around consultations on the proposed location for Manitoba's first supervised consumption site have left some people questioning the process. Months ago, Manitoba's addictions minister, Bernadette Smith, told CBC stakeholders within a 500-meter radius of that site would be consulted as part of federal requirements. Well, a Health Canada spokesperson says there is no rule about geographic distance from that site. We'll hear more. And the number of people experiencing homelessness in Brandon has jumped, up 77% since 2021. We'll hear about that as well, coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
Looking forward to it. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Lots to come on the program. How friendly are Manitobans to newcomers? We have been asking this question all week on the show. We're going to hear from a Winnipeg nonprofit that says friendliness has always been a challenge, but now it's leading to safety concerns for many new Canadians. That conversation coming up in our 8 o'clock half hour of the program. During our 7 o'clock hour, what is the state of sidewalks where you live? Are you happy with the snow clearing being done so far in Winnipeg? We'll hear from a disability advocate looking for your pictures and stories. That's coming up at 7:50. At 7:10, the first Black Student Union Summit is happening in Winnipeg today. Students of all ages gathering tonight to talk about identity, activism, academic achievement, and so much more. We'll hear from one of the organizers about why that's so important. But in our first half hour, learning to love your job again. We'll find out how employers can help make workplaces somewhere you want to spend time, when we hear from the author of Why Are We Here? That's coming up in our first half hour of the program. I'm Faith Fundal here on Information Radio, 89.3 FM, 990 AM. World Report is standing by.
Today on Q.
After winning the Oscar for Best Actor, Adrian Brody returned to critical acclaim with his portrayal of a Jewish-Hungarian immigrant who's also a brilliant architect in the film The Brutalist.
My buildings were devised to endure such erosion.
He'll talk about the responsibility that comes with telling an immigrant story in 2025.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. We begin in Ontario, where Premier Doug Ford plans to call a provincial election next week, CBC News has learned. He doesn't have to send voters to the polls this early, but as Lisa Shing tells us, Conservative strategists are betting the timing is just right for Ford to secure another term in office.
Hopefully, we'll have a strong mandate.
Though he didn't outright say it, Ontario Premier Doug Ford is sending all the signals.
When you have a clear mandate from the people, I'm asking for a mandate from the people of Ontario to make sure that we protect them.
And now CBC News has confirmed Ford is planning to call a provincial election next Wednesday, which would send Ontarians to the polls at the end of February. That's more than a year ahead of schedule, putting months-long rumors to rest.
This ballot is Ford versus Trump.
Conservative strategist Andrew Brander says the timing is right. The PCs are ahead in the polls, and
everyone is going to believe that there's a risk associated with President Trump and that there is a need to have some strong leadership.
Ford has repeatedly said he needs a new mandate from Ontarians to spend billions of dollars in response to the potential economic devastation that would come with Donald Trump's threatened tariffs. And it would preempt a federal election. Former Liberal member of provincial parliament and political science professor at Wilfrid Laurier University, John Malloy.
If we experience month after month of layoffs, of high prices, of economic chaos that's being promised, people are going to look for someone to take their anger out.
Provincial opposition leaders say Ford already has a strong mandate and should not cause more uncertainty when there's already enough political chaos in Ottawa. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Federal Industry Minister Francois-Philippe Champagne is chiding the CEO of Amazon. He says it's not too late to reconsider Amazon's decision to close 7 warehouses in Quebec and urged him to do so. Champagne says Amazon has a significant impact on local economies in Quebec, and the decision to close those warehouses raises questions about Amazon's commitment to its Canadian partners. U.S. President Donald Trump is repeating his threat to hit China with punitive tariffs. It came during the second part of his Fox News interview, which aired last night. The CBC's Chris Reyes is in New York this morning. Chris, what did Trump have to say?
Hi, John. So President Trump described his recent conversations with China's President Xi Jinping to be very friendly. He praised the leader for his ambition and his intelligence. And Trump said their relationship before COVID was friendly, but he insisted that tariffs, 10% is what he said when he was elected, is an important leveraging tool for the U.S.
One very big power over China, and that's tariffs. And they don't want them, and I'd rather not have to use it. But it's a tremendous power over China. China gets a lot of its money from the United States. They use that money to build a military. Isn't it crazy?
This interview, the second part of the interview, really focused a lot on U.S. relations with the rest of the world. And Trump kept going back to one of the biggest priorities of his administration, which is energy dominance, and his ambition to provide energy to Western Europe, which he said would bankrupt Russia. Again, this interview, John, is this recurring theme, which is his vision of a strong America that can negotiate peace in the world. But we wait to see how the global community responds to his threats and demands.
So, Chris, today, Donald Trump will visit some areas of the U.S. hit by recent disasters. What can you tell us about that?
That's right. This would be President Trump's first official trip since his inauguration, and he will visit North Carolina, which was devastated by Hurricane Helene last year, causing historic flooding and landslides. He will also go to Southern California, where wildfires are still raging. Trump has a particularly contentious relationship with its governor, Democrat Gavin Newsom. He has threatened to withhold funding if California doesn't make changes to their environmental policies.
The CBC's Chris Reyes for us in New York. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
The Israel-Hamas ceasefire in Gaza is allowing more people to return home. Palestinians are getting ready to move back to some of the cities they were ordered to leave, and more Israeli hostages could soon be freed. The CBC's Sasha Petrusek is at the Israel-Gaza border. Sasha, what do we know about the aid situation right now in Gaza?
Well, John, the United Nations and other agencies have been quite happy with the increase in aid that's been able to make it in. They're saying that we're seeing an average of 780 aid trucks are getting into Gaza from different entrances. Most of that is food, and they're especially happy that it is able to be distributed inside Gaza. That was a big, big worry because of the condition of the roads, the infrastructure. Their only challenge now is that there's really nowhere to put this aid. It has to be distributed right away because there are no warehouses. Those have been destroyed. That sort of thing has been a bit of a challenge. And it will be especially challenging over the next few days because a lot of people will be moving from the south to the north into Gaza City. In those areas, there are tent cities being put up there, but the aid demand is going to be huge there as well.
So, Sasha, as part of this ceasefire deal, more Israeli hostages are supposed to be released tomorrow. Tell us about that.
That's right. According to the schedule, 4 hostages are supposed to be released. These 4 are supposed to be women, 1 civilian, and 3 female soldiers who will be released in much the same way that we saw last time, handed by the Hamas militants to Red Cross officials who will then drive them to the Israeli military. And then they will be helicoptered to hospital and to meet their families. In exchange, Israel has committed to release Palestinian prisoners. This weekend, it would be 180. That is 50 for each female soldier and 30 for each female civilian who will be released by Hamas. So that exchange is supposed to start tomorrow afternoon in Gaza.
Sasha Petrusek on the Israel-Gaza border. Thanks, Sasha.
My pleasure, John.
The Palestinian Wafa news agency is reporting Israeli forces have arrested 22 people in the past 24 hours in the occupied West Bank. Israel's military has been ramping up an operation near Jenin. Since the ceasefire in Gaza took hold, hundreds have packed up and left the Jenin refugee camp. At least 10 people were reported killed in this week's operation. The Israeli military says it's trying to prevent militants from regrouping and attacking Israeli civilians. Storm winds packing over 150 kilometers an hour are slamming parts of the UK. Storm Éowyn is forcing millions of people in Scotland and Northern Ireland to stay inside. Rare red weather warnings are issued for those areas. That means the high winds pose a danger to life. Officials in Ireland say 500,000 properties are without power. Schools are closed. Flights, buses and trains in the area are cancelled. The storm is so far shaping up to be one of the most severe to ever hit the region. A joint investigation between the Fifth Estate, Marketplace, CBC Radio Canada's Enquête and Le Facteur are looking into the changing landscape in pet care, from corporate takeovers to the cost and availability of pet medication. Most Canadians don't realize they can get their pet's prescription filled at a pharmacy, but as the Fifth Estate found, it's not always that easy. Stephen D'Souza has the story.
Good, jump. Good, left.
Grace Frankel savors the moments she has with Finnegan. The Australian Shepherd almost died 2 years ago.
Have a seizure and then you'd have another.
As a clinical pharmacist, she knew of a new drug that her vet did not.
Because I had those connections that I'm forever grateful for, we were able to save him.
But right now, Canadians can't easily buy pet meds from a pharmacist. A joint CBC Radio-Canada investigation found some veterinary regulators, drug companies, and distributors are shutting out pharmacists.
I really felt I was bullied.
For years, pharmacist Wendy Choi got most of her supply from a veterinarian. But after the Ontario vet regulator changed the rules and a drug maker filed a complaint, Choi felt the industry was against her.
Vet medication only being sold in vet clinics.
Choi reported the issue to Canada's Competition Bureau. Competition Law Officer Yusuf Zine El Abedin says they found a system of exclusive distribution.
Which means that the drug manufacturers sell exclusively to distributors, who then sell exclusively to veterinarians.
The Competition Bureau says Canadians need wider access to pet meds. But Dr. Tim Arthur, president of the Canadian Veterinary Medical Association, says animal safety is an issue.
Human pharmacists know nothing about the species I'm treating.
He also says giving pharmacists more access will hurt vets' bottom line, so prices in other areas may go up. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, Toronto.
Pet Care Inc. airs tonight on the Fifth Estate on CBC Television and GEM at 9 p.m., 9:30 in Newfoundland, and on YouTube at 1 p.m. Eastern. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Magandang umaga, maligayang Biyernes, good morning and happy Friday, Manitoba. Faith Fundal here in Studio 15 at Portage and Spence, sitting in for Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Well, is the Liberal leadership race about to heat up? We're going to look at which candidates have been doing the best job at getting their message out. That's coming up in this hour of the program. Also ahead, older Canadians are increasingly feeling the holiday financial hangover. Personal finance columnist Robina Ahmed Haq says that as the credit card bills come due for spending on Christmas, many worry about how they will pay them down. First, though, learning to love your job again. We'll find out how employers can help make workplaces somewhere you want to spend time when we hear from the author of Why Are We Here? That's coming up next here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Stay tuned. And good morning to the folks watching us on CBC Television and on our streaming site on YouTube at CBC Manitoba. Kevin Nipatebo is our streaming producer. Good morning. And we'll hear from the other folks in the control room here shortly. First, though, we're going to head to your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. And Heather Wells joining us now with a look at news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a group of 17 organizations is calling for a review of a Manitoba PC leadership hopeful's candidacy. Wally Dowdridge came under fire earlier this month when his campaign team shared a post calling on, quote, Muslim Abi Khan to be stopped. Khan is also running to be the party's next leader. The National Council of Canadian Muslims has reached out to Khan, it says, multiple times, hoping he would meet with Manitoba Muslim organizations. We'll hear more from them. And a Winnipeg immigration lawyer says Donald Trump's return to the White House may be driving some businesses north of the border. That story and more coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Abby Adiemi, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
It's not bad. And you know what? It feels so mild. Riley Check yesterday was saying, don't worry, it'll get warmer. And boy, oh boy, here we are.
Yeah, the warm is definitely coming, but you need to deal with some snow today. That is coming our way. Snow and some windy conditions with cool temperatures in the northern part of the province. However, Winnipeg at this time, we are at -11. We're seeing that light snow. It's blowing outside. It might be affecting your commute if you are like on the highways or even around the perimeter today. So look out for that. But we do have cloudy conditions. The snow would start this morning, already feeling it in some parts of the city, and that should bring about 2 centimeters accumulation once the system passes us. The wind that I made mention of will be easing by the noon period, becoming light, and then we warm up to about -2, but the wind chill is still around -20, 21 this morning, and then tonight the snow continues. Another 2 centimeters expected, and we might be getting that blowing snow into the overnight period. So if you're traveling on the highways, it might be impacting you. In summary, other regions, we're looking at lingering snow across the province from south all the way up, and then the wind chill is also going to be adding that cold bites. But right now, Winnipeg, we are at -11.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Chloe Friesen. Chloe's It's morning time.
I wish I was Chloe.
May McKillop, good morning. Oh, my goodness.
Good morning, Faith. I think we all worked together yesterday. That's
we
probably
did,
where that's coming from.
The brain is not ready.
And now we're on the morning show.
Yes, we are. You're following the commute?
I am, yeah. The conditions are looking pretty windy today, coming off of what Abby said in the weather there. My drive today, there was a lot of blowing snow on the roads here in Winnipeg, so watch out for that and brake early in those intersections. Looking at the highways outside of the city, similar things. Some windy conditions are causing blowing snow, affecting visibility, and slippery conditions underneath that blowing snow. Most highways outside of Winnipeg, there's some snow-covered conditions. Some are bare. The one that I'm looking at right now is Highway number 16, just past Portage, all the way to Neepawa. Poor visibility and snow-covered conditions, but there's a snowplow moving along there right now. Anything that you're seeing along your commute throughout our show, give me a call and I'll pass the message along. 204-788-3093.
15 minutes after 6 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, I'm Faith Fundal. Why are we here? The simple question that you may ask yourself as you start work each day. It is also the title of a new book by Jennifer Moss. She is a workplace strategist. And in Why Are We Here? Creating a Work Culture Everyone Wants, she examines how our relationship to work has changed in recent years and how we can find more of a sense of purpose in our jobs. Jennifer is in Kitchener, Ontario this morning. Welcome to the program. Hello.
Hi, it's nice to talk to you this morning.
You as well. I mean, obviously the pandemic affected a lot of people's relationships with work. What did you discover in your research?
It did play a massive role. And I think because it has lasted so long, and what's happened is we've now gone into a state of what is called polycrisis. And that's just this mix of other crises, this cluster of crises that end up making each one worse. And so when you're going through this type of event like the pandemic, when you think it's acute, you're not necessarily dealing with what researchers call as a mortality facing event. You're not thinking about the finitude of your lives. But when it goes on for this long, and it was such a collective global place of grief and really facing the mortality of of our lives. What changed was our brains actually shift, and it reorganizes what our priorities are in our brain. And we want to do more of what we like to do and less of what we don't like to do, which is a pretty normal thing, but it's really heightened when we feel this way. And this is what prompted the Great Resignation. It's prompted disengagement at work. It's made people feel like, is work really important? Am I identified only with work? And people started to say, what am I doing with my life versus what, am I doing for a living? And it started to reshift what work was in that priority structure.
What do you think it was that made it so difficult to recover from the effects of the pandemic in the workplace?
I think we all felt like it was acute. I think we thought, okay, this is only a few weeks. And even when it was a few months, we could sustain that. But then, we had these ups and downs where the whole world opened and then it closed again. And people started to realize that this was going to be, a long time. And what happens over time is that you can only work in that surge capacity and at those levels for so long until you start to feel really exhausted and hopeless that it's not going to change. And unfortunately, I think that employers didn't realize that, this doesn't need to be the new normal, this level of work. Instead, we've just continued to, kind of move with this level of momentum and rapid changes. And a lot of people are starting to feel like, what's the pointism is on the rise. A lot of people are asking, why am I here? Because they're deeply dissatisfied. And when you are, again, feeling like life is short, you notice that so much more than you might have before the pandemic.
And the generational difference, I imagine, it also has a pretty big factor in all of this, right?
Oh, it's huge. I've talked to mature workers, boomers. They're saying, I don't know how I fit in at all to this work force, and I don't feel aligned. My values don't feel aligned. And in Canada, when you have so many people turning retirement age all at once, that's going to really shift the labor force because you're not seeing them stick in the workforce that they don't feel like they're aligned to. And then Gen Zs are like, you are not modeling Xers and boomers a great experience of work for us. We want to feel like well-being is an antithetical to work ethic. And so they're pushing back. And then Xers, I'm an Xer, we're sort of the silent generation. We're just letting each one of those duke it out until whoever wins the battle, then we'll follow along with that. But it really is impacting the experience of work for sure for people. And this is why I wrote the book, is to give people, I think leaders and employees, an understanding of that it's not this hard to make a change, that it really is, culture can be changed in 20 minutes or less. And so I filled the book with these practical tactics because I think a lot of people are feeling like, I have no idea what to do. And so I'm just going to either quit or continue working, but highly disengaged.
Jennifer, it's really a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks for your work, and take good care.
Thank you so much.
Jennifer Moss is a workplace strategist and the author of Why Are We Here? Creating a Work Culture Everyone Wants. We're at 20 minutes after 6 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. And still to come, personal finance columnist Rubina Ahmed-Haq says it's a misconception that older Canadians are less likely to feel the effects of overspending during the holidays. Many say they're worried about how they're going to pay their bloated credit card statements. We'll hear details of that coming up in our next half hour. First, though, when you have a newborn baby, finding some time to be mindful and get some exercise can be hard. Yoga instructor Mandy Buckle is trying to make that a little easier for new moms. She's offering a combined baby and mom yoga class in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. The CBC's Amy Fian stopped by the class recently to find out more.
Just taking a nice deep breath in through your nose, and then breathing out through your mouth. And taking this moment right now to be thankful for coming out with your baby, getting out of the house.
Hi, my name is Mandy Buckle, and I'm a yoga teacher. I teach yoga, regular yoga, and I also do baby yoga. So what baby yoga is just an opportunity for moms and babies to get out of the house and interact with each other, some socialization for the babies and for the moms. We just sing some songs and do a little bit of yoga for moms. For the babies, with the songs, we do some movements, which just helps to strengthen their muscles. Basically, that's the whole idea behind baby yoga, is just to help them strengthen their muscles and reach those milestones.
So we take babies underneath their knees, and we're just going to be bringing their knees in towards their chest, singing Wheels on the Bus. All right, and like I said last time, sing along with me because I don't have a great voice. So. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round.
So I did the yoga teacher training course when I was pregnant with my first son, and after he was born, baby yoga was being offered, so I attended with him and just thought it was really sweet and just a nice opportunity to meet other moms who had babies, which I didn't know anybody beforehand, kind of thing. And a little while after that, the baby yoga course was being offered, so I decided to register for it, and it's just really a lot of fun.
And what need are you seeing among mothers, to offer this course now?
Getting babies out the door is not always an easy task. So if you don't have anything on the go, then you're more likely to stay at home. So getting out of the house, and that can just really help with mental health and things like that for moms. So
how does this help mentally?
Well, I can speak from experience that I had postpartum depression with my son. So especially during the winter time, it's like I just wanted to stay at home. I didn't want to get out. But little things like this just help you get out the door. And once you're out, you feel so much better just being around other people and talking to other moms who may be experiencing the same thing as you. So just those little things just really help to help improve your mental health. And yoga can help with that as well, just from the stretching and the deep breathing and things like that. So.
How do you keep the atmosphere sort of calm in here? Because, babies could be quite sensitive to, lights and sounds. How do you make sure that, they're also enjoying what's happening?
Well, that's one thing about baby yoga that's different from regular yoga, is that babies make their own schedule. They do their own things. They have, they are their own little person. So that's one thing that I do tell the moms when they come in here, that it's a very relaxed environment. If your baby cries, tend to your baby. Don't worry about what else is going on in the class. If your baby needs to be fed, that's okay. Feed your baby. If you need to change your baby, that's okay. And babies are going to cry. That's how they communicate. So you just do whatever needs to be done to, help soothe your baby. But don't worry about what's going on, because your baby might cry today, and then next week someone else's baby's going to cry. So that's just baby yoga. I always like to tell a story of when I took my son to our first baby yoga class. I get there and he's crying, so I feed him, and the class is going on around us, and then he's done feeding, so then he needed to be changed, so I changed his diaper, and then by the time I got all that done and we were ready to go, she said, "Okay, class is over now." So I always like to tell that story to the moms so that they feel more relaxed and they don't feel like, oh, I need to shush my baby because he or she is making a noise. But it's just a very relaxed environment, and it's baby yoga, so it's for them. So
here we go.
Hi, my name is Julia Gowdy. This is Evie. She's 2 months old today.
Julia, what made you want to come to this class?
This is my second baby, and I didn't really get out. Well, Carter was born this summer, so it was a lot easier to get out. So this was an opportunity to get Evie out of the house and myself out of the house and meet some new moms and hopefully make some friends for Evie for the future.
With a great big hug and a kiss from me to you, won't you say you love me too?
Thanks to the CBC's Amy Fian for that story. We're at just about 26 minutes after 6 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. Canadian indie rocker Ecstasy has had a pretty good year. Not many artists can say they've toured with one of the biggest pop-punk bands on the planet, Blink-182. And to finish off the past year, he released this high-energy track. Take a listen to Ecstasy. This is She Will Be Missed.
much I've done. I'm not chasing the side, I'm not chasing all you've already just for me. I'm stuck in your core, not facing, and I can't move on. Yeah, so I I'm not taking side from and I can't move on. Yeah, so I I'm not taking side from
You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. That tune's called Ecstasy, and She Will Be Missed. Lots to come in our next half hour of the program. As you've been hearing, Donald Trump said this week he will order U.S. interest rates to come down immediately. So can he actually do that? We'll get details from our CBC National Business Desk. And Vail in Brazil says it is launching a review of its assets in Thompson. So does it mean that they're looking to sell? We'll hear from Phil Demont again from with the Business Report coming up on the program. We'll get a full look at your weather forecast in our next half hour. And if you see any issues on your commute this Friday morning, call our commuter line 204-788-3093, 204-788-3093. And stay tuned as well, because we're going to talk about the Liberal leadership race that might be about to heat up. We'll look at which candidates have been doing the best job at getting their messages out. Stay tuned for that coming up here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1 after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. It's 6:30. It's not as bracing when you step outside this morning. We're at minus 11 right now. It is going to be snowy. It's going to be mild. A high today of minus 2. Some Winnipeggers are feeling confused over the way the province is handling consultations around a proposed supervised consumption site. Manitoba's Minister in charge of Addictions, Bernadette Smith, previously said federal regulations required consultations within a radius of 500 meters. But Health Canada says there is no such rule around geographic distance, only the stipulation the province must consult. Smith now says the province is casting an even wider net.
We're going above and beyond. Like, there's rivers, there's rail lines. We're not, we don't really have, a number of meters.
The minister says consultations are ongoing, with more set to take place in coming weeks. The National Council of Canadian Muslims says it's time Canada's political culture had a makeover. Earlier this month, Manitoba PC leadership hopeful Wally Dowdrich was asked to apologize for sharing an Islamophobic post on his Facebook page. The shared post included the comment, "We must stop Muslim Abi Khan from winning the race." The council's provincial advocacy officer, Sadaf Ahmed, says this type of rhetoric is becoming more common, especially when trying to appeal to a particular base.
There's a direct link between hostile rhetoric towards particular communities and the manifestation of harassment and violence.
A group of 17 organizations is joining the National Council in now calling for a review of Dowdrich's candidacy in the leadership race for the PC party. Brandon has seen a 77% increase in people experiencing homelessness since 2021. The city's point-in-time homeless count identified 229 unhoused people in October of 2024. That's a jump of 100 people compared to 2021. Heather Symbolisti is the executive director of Samaritan House Ministries. It runs the city's only overnight shelter. Symbolisti says the 41-bed shelter sees about 50 people visit each night.
When you add it all together, people are just scrambling. Just trying to make basic rent is challenging in these times. So yeah, I think that this is just the start. I think that this summer and the fall will show even more.
In 2024, the Safe and Warm shelter in Brandon had about 540 visitors. A Winnipeg immigration lawyer says Donald Trump's return to the White House may be driving some businesses north of the border. Sophia Mirza is a partner at Fillmore Riley. She has been hearing from individuals looking to come to Canada after Donald Trump's election. But she's also been getting 1 or 2 requests a week from American business owners over the last few months.
Some will have businesses in the United States, and they have subsidiary corporations in Canada or affiliated corporations to their corporation in the United States that are in Canada. And they're looking to actually come here and run their businesses from here for the next 4 years.
Mirza says people have explicitly said they had concerns or were uncertain about what to expect in the U.S. and wanted to keep their options open. Well, President Trump is demanding an immediate end to the war in Ukraine, and Trump warns of what he may do if the war doesn't end.
If they don't settle this war soon, like almost immediately, I'm going to put massive tariffs on Russia and massive taxes and also big sanctions. And I don't want to do that, but we've got to get this war ended. And if they don't make a settlement like fast, and Zelensky, I will say this, he wants to settle now. He's had enough.
Trump in a Fox News interview last night. He also criticized Ukraine for taking on a bigger enemy and former President Joe Biden for the billions of dollars of American aid. The war in Ukraine enters its 4th year next month. The Secretary of Russia's Security Council is warning of an increased risk of an armed clash between nuclear powers. Sergei Shoigu says that is because of increased rivalry between large countries on the world stage. He is also accusing NATO of rehearing offensive scenarios near the borders of Russia and Belarus. Shoigu, described as a friend, President Vladimir Putin, was Russia's defense minister until last May. Storm Éowyn is making its way across Ireland and Britain this morning. And that storm is creating huge disruptions. Schools are closed, flights and ferries are canceled, so too are some trains. Mark Ilderton is with ScotRail.
This is a major weather event, and keeping our customers and colleagues safe is our #1 priority. Because of that, we've had to make the very difficult decision to withdraw all of our ScotRail services to make sure that we keep everybody safe.
The storm packed winds of 183 kilometers an hour when it landed on the west coast of Ireland this morning. Red weather warnings, the highest level, are in place for Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland, while the rest of Britain is under yellow warnings because of those high winds. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7, and you can find more Manitoba news at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Maligayang Biyernes, happy Friday, Manitoba. Faith Fundal here in Studio 15 at Portage and Spence. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. As well on CBC Television. Hello to the folks watching us there. And on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream, Kevin Nipatebo is our streaming producer. Good morning. Hello. We're going to say hello as well to Abby Adiemi, who's going to talk about the weather here on the program because it's warmer.
Yeah, it's going to be a warmer day. We're going to have like a mix of light snow, windy conditions, colder temperatures in some parts of the province. Though the southern regions will have this snow continue into tomorrow when conditions up north will be clearing as we go further north. In Winnipeg and the Red River Valley region, we're looking at temperatures around a -11 at this time, with light snow blowing in some areas and open areas. Expect some more snow throughout the day. We should see about 2 centimeters this morning, and then later in the night, we should see more to come. We get a high of -2 today. In the Pembina Valley region, we're looking at similar conditions with more than at -7 at this time. Also seeing that light snow. We're going to see periods of snow and breezy conditions for that part of the province. Heading west to Brandon, -6 at this time. Light snow being experienced in that part of the province. Expect these periods of snow and breezy conditions to stay with you for most of the day. Highs around -2. Temperatures will be dropping to -15 later tonight. In Dauphin, we're seeing temperatures around -5 at this time. For the Parkland region, snow will continue throughout the day. Highs will be around -2. Expect clear skies tonight. In the Interlake region, Gimli is currently at -12. We're seeing light snow, which will be sticking around throughout the day. The high will be near -3. This snow is going to continue into tonight for folks in Gimli. Moving to the Pamphlet-Flon region, we're seeing temperatures around -5. Also having light snow there. Expect a high of a -7. Tonight, the snow will ease off, and then temperatures will be dropping further. Thompson and Churchill, we're looking at a -13 in Thompson at this time. Light snow also spotted there. Highs around -5, and then tonight you should see that system move out. In Churchill, also -13. Expect snow, a high of -10. The wind chill this morning actually feels like -29, and then temperatures drops to -25 with blowing snow later in the evening. So across board, Faith, heading into the weekend, snow is expected in most of the regions with that windy conditions that should be mild as we get to the noon period. In the south and central areas, we should see the blowing snow being felt around the perimeter and also on the highway. So if you're on the highway 1, 75, 59, blowing areas and along that axis, you should be experiencing blowing snow. So that may affect your visibility.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Abby Adiemi here on the program. May McKillop is our studio director, and you've been following the commute so far. Hello.
I've been following the commute. No calls so far, but I noticed on my drive-in there is a lot of blowing snow today with those windy conditions. So keep an eye on that. Also some slippery conditions underneath that blowing snow. Taking a look at the highways outside of Winnipeg, most of them are a little partly covered, particularly in the northwest area outside of Winnipeg. And I'm looking at Highway 16, which is quite snow-covered, and some reduced visibility with that blowing snow. And similar conditions on Highway number 6 heading north out of Winnipeg. Both of those highways, 16 and 6, have snowplows moving along them. I'll keep you updated on the highways throughout the show. If there's anything you want to let us know about, call our commuter line, and I'm standing by to take the call, 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks very much. May McKillop, our studio director here on the program. We're at 20 minutes before 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, and we're going to say hello to Phil Dumont now, joining us with the Business Report. Good morning.
Morning, Faith.
Phil, Valet in Brazil says it's launching a review of its assets in Thompson. So does it mean that they're looking to sell then?
Yeah, that's often the strategic review is a code for fire sale. The big Brazilian miner says it's launching a rethink, partly because the nickel market in North America slumped. It also has had trouble reaching its financial targets last year. The Thompson operation gone through a lot of changes over the past number of years. Workforce something like less than about maybe 1,000 now, down from a few thousand in the 90s. 2017, the smelter and refinery there was shut down, eliminating about 300 jobs. But in 2021, the parent company decided to spend about $150 million to extend the life of the mine, about another 10 years. So it's kind of going against that strategy a bit. Inherited at the Thompson nickel mines as part of the purchase of Inco back in 2006 for almost $20 billion. Mine's been in operation, though, since the late 50s, early 60s, so that might call into question the quality of the remaining reserves, because you do run out eventually, but also nickel prices at a 4-year year-over-year low despite the growth prospects stemming from the new car battery production, because nickel's supposed to be a big influx into there. So there might be a lot of financial pressure on the Brazilian company because its stock price is stagnating, and Thompson might be low-hanging fruit. In other words, the assets you could sell the quickest to get a return, and it's probably not consequential to your overall strategy. So that might be what they're looking at right now.
All right. Let's talk about Donald Trump here. This week he said he will order U.S. interest rates to come down immediately. Can he actually do that?
No, he can't. He was talking at the World Economic Forum in Davos on Thursday. I said in a speech he would demand interest rates in the U.S. come down, as you say, immediately. Wants lower rates because basically, Faith, he sees this as a path to faster economic growth and a soaring stock market. But he's always had a contentious relationship with the Federal Reserve and its chair, Jerome Powell, ironically, who he appointed. In his first term, he wanted lower rates just as the central bank was increasing them. History proved the Fed was right in hiking rates because it brought down inflation. Now Trump is pressuring Powell again to drop rates. One problem, the Reserve's already cut rates 3 times last year. Also, Trump can't order the Fed to do anything. By law, central bankers in Canada and the U.S. are independent from political pressure. And it's hard to see, to be honest, what economic issue lowering rates would diffuse. U.S. inflation's in the 2% range, so that's good. Economic growth close to 3%, that's pretty reasonable. One potential problem is the mortgage market. The proxy for mortgage rates here is the 30-year bond. Its interest rate there is 7%. So you're looking at mortgage rates kind of in that range. One reason they're so high is that the market sees larger government deficits under Donald Trump with his plans, and that tends to keep interest rates higher than they otherwise would be. So it might be the higher deficit from what he wants to do, in the tax area, rather than higher interest rates from what Powell is looking at. That might be Washington's biggest concern right now. So he might have the wrong end of the horse he's looking at.
You see more musicians as well making money because their hits are getting used in ads and on shows. Who are we talking about here?
Yeah, just because I saw this article. Mark Mothersbaum. Now, he's the 74-year-old former lead singer of famed techno band Devo. He writes scores for movies and TVs now, but he earns about $1 million annually from companies and shows using Devo's hit, but it's not Whip It, which is what I thought it was going to be. It's Uncontrollable Urge, which I don't even know. I looked it up as a video, and I didn't even know it then, and I'm not bad on this stuff. It's apparently the most used song on MTV. Made me wonder other groups that make more cash from ads rather than streaming. Born to Be Wild. Netted Steppenwolf a decent chunk of change when it showed up in the Mercedes 2017 Super Bowl ad. Little River Band out of Australia scored when Walmart used its song Help Is On The Way to promote its grocery delivery app. Here's a couple of music crossovers that might have missed the mark, though. Geico, the insurance company, they used the Allman Brothers song Midnight Rider to promote its motorcycle insurance. Problem, band's lead guitarist Dwayne Allman died in a motorcycle crash back in 1971. Then there's Walmart again. It used Working Man, which is a Rush song, and a conceptual ad promoting American workers, one of those Morning in America kind of ads. The problem, the song is actually about how a working man's life is lousy if you look at the lyrics, so I don't think that's what Walmart had in mind when they picked the Rush song.
Let's talk about the markets this morning. How are they doing so far?
A bit mixed in Europe. UK down, Germany up a bit. France was up close to 1%. Hong Kong was up close to 2% in Asia, and the Shanghai market was up. Oil up 47 cents, $75.09 U.S. a barrel. Gold's up $21, $7,786 an ounce. And the Canadian dollar up marginally, trading at 69.73 cents U.S.
Phil, have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Faith. Same to you.
Phil DeMont in here with our business report today. We're at 15 minutes before 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. The holiday bills are almost due, and many of us wonder how we're going to pay for all of our Christmas overspending. A new survey finds a surprising group of Canadians are increasingly stressed about how much they spent in December. Personal finance columnist Rubina Ahmed Haq says this highlights how anyone can go over budget regardless of age or experience.
Holiday spending was up in 2024, according to consulting firm PwC Canada. It finds the average Canadian household spent more than $1,800 on gifts, travel, and entertainment in November and December. As most Canadians make plans to deal with that debt, a new survey finds Canadians 55 and older are increasingly worried about how they will pay their holiday credit card bills.
Financial literacy is a challenge across all age spectrums in the economy.
Ben McCabe is the CEO of Bloom Finance, a tech company providing retirement solutions. McCabe says his company, in partnership with Angus Reid, spoke to older Canadians about the stress they're feeling post-holiday.
I think what really jumped out is that, over half of senior homeowners are concerned or overwhelmed with basically the impact of their spending over the holidays and the holiday sort of debt burden that they've taken on as a result, of that.
The survey of Canadian homeowners over 55 has a margin of error plus or minus 4.3 percentage points 19 times out of 20. McCabe says the stress older Canadians are feeling is the result of several financial realities seniors find themselves in. Retiring with little or no workplace pension, not having a retirement nest egg, financially supporting their adult children and sometimes grandchildren, and higher everyday prices.
2/3 pointed specifically to rising prices and that rising cost of living as sort of the reason that was making it harder to manage those expenses, whether that's buying gifts for their grandchildren or children, or whether that be a little bit of holiday travel. It's those rising prices that are really pinching people.
As I think that because society sees this group as very house rich, has lots of assets, there has also been an unspoken dependence on this group to help out their children.
Kelly Ho is a financial planner based in Vancouver. She says when we think of financial struggles, we often think of younger Canadians managing their higher cost of housing and lower wages. But she points out that many older Canadians who did not plan for their senior years are also feeling the effects of bloated credit card bills.
Well, a lot of the people in this demographic are on fixed income, meaning that whatever they've earned and saved or whatever pensions they have, that's what they have. There isn't any more unless they start taking more from their home equity for those who are homeowners. So it's actually very complex depending on the situation.
She says changing family dynamics is also part of why older Canadians are struggling as they get close to retirement.
What I'm finding is a lot of these clients who are having children later in life or still have large mortgages if they're living on metropolitan cities. Some of them are health dependent, looking to defer their retirement. And they actually want to know what is the earliest they can retire, given the fact that they need to support their younger children or they still have ongoing liabilities that will pass your typical retirement age of 65.
Ho has this advice for older Canadians worried about paying their holiday bills. Pay these bills and then focus on establishing a cash flow management system so you always know what income is coming and what expenses are going out. Learn that financial planning does not end in retirement. Plan now for next year's spending so you don't go over budget. For younger Canadians who don't want to struggle later, she has these tips. Find a life partner who shares your good money values and be mortgage-free before you leave the workforce. For CBC Radio, I'm Rubina Ahmed-Haq.
Thanks very much, Rubina. I'm Faith Wendell here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Expecting some snow for the rest of this morning. About 2 centimeters expected to have fallen by the morning as it progresses. But later today, cloudy conditions in the forecast with a southerly wind becoming light near noon. A temperature high of -2 degrees today with a wind chill this morning. Feels like -21, but this afternoon, because of those warmer temperatures, -7 with the wind chill. Still to come here on the program, the nomination papers are in and the endorsements are multiplying. We'll speak with Laurie Turnbull, a professor of political science at Dalhousie University, and get her take on the Liberal leadership race. And I hear that she's actually here on the line now. Laurie Turnbull, good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
The various leadership candidates, how are they doing in getting their messages out and differentiating themselves from the pack?
I mean, I think it's still early days. Like, they've just come through the moment where if you're going to be in, you have to be in. That was last night. And so, I mean, I think we can hear Mark Carney talk about his experience, a very, kind of impressive, unusual career as a Bank of Canada governor and a Bank of England governor. He's positioning himself as the person with the experience to handle the kind of economic turbulence that we're in the middle of, and especially with the Trump situation and the threat of tariffs. Chrystia Freeland is, I think, trying to distinguish herself from the person she has been for the last 9 years or so. She wants to kind of step forward in her own, as her own politician with her own agenda, and not be someone who is carrying the banner for Justin Trudeau. And I think Karina Gould is trying to position herself as a candidate for younger voters. And so some of the promises that she's making, things like keeping the HST off of car seats and things like that, those are aimed at younger families. And honestly, it's harder to get the same kind of understanding of the other candidates. Like, they're really, like, the sense of Carney and Freeland being the front runners, and then there's everybody else. The race is really having that. It seems to be taking that shape.
And whenever you have these sorts of races, you will hear endorsements from other MPs, for example. When you sort of look at all these endorsements, do they actually matter, do you think?
Yes, a lot. I think when you see somebody like Mark Carney get endorsements from Melanie Joly and Minister Champagne in Quebec, that's huge, because there is no front-running candidate from Quebec. But it's hard to see how the Liberals would, recover themselves in the next election if they don't do well in Quebec. But for Mark Carney, that's organization on the ground for him in Quebec. That's, networks, money, contacts, volunteers, ground-up support, make sure people get out and vote. Like, that's huge for him. And I think the fact that there's so many cabinet ministers, former cabinet colleagues of Chrystia Freeland, who are lining up behind Mark Carney, that's a lot of momentum for him.
Do you have a sense of who might be the most effective at dealing with Donald Trump and his threats of tariffs and all the other things that he's talked about?
I mean, that's the big question. I mean, Carney and Freeland both have experience that would apply. But for Freeland, I think, like, she can say, look, I negotiated NAFTA the first time that Trump was president, and so I have experience with this. I have experience with him. Yes, but on the other hand, Trump doesn't like her, and he's made a point of saying that. He doesn't want to talk to her. And so that experience can cut both ways for her. Carney is in a position of having been in a leadership position, different times of economic distress and disruption. He was Bank of Canada governor during the 2008-2009 crash. He was Bank of England governor in advance of Brexit, and that was certainly a very tumultuous time for their economy. And so I think he can point to some strength that he has in those positions. But, I mean, like, it's hard to be able to position yourself as someone who's really good at handling Trump, because he's so unpredictable. So you don't want to get expectations too high, I think, because ultimately it's very different. I think it's very difficult for Canada to respond and get on equal footing with Trump, given the strength he has. And these guys are all kind of vying to be leader at this point.
How different do you think the Liberal Party could look? Because Chrystia Freeland, as you said, would scrap the capital gains tax. Candidates are all backing away from the carbon tax. Is the Liberal Party of Canada going to be very different with any of these leaders?
I think that the Liberal Party under Justin Trudeau's leadership has been very much consumed by his image, his brand, his priorities. And so a change of leader could mean a fundamentally different Liberal Party, just because the leader is so important in in determining what the party is going to be about. Now, so, like, it's not that Justin Trudeau doesn't have anything in common with these people who are running. Of course he does. And Carney, even though he wasn't in the cabinet, was still a close advisor to Trudeau. And so that's one of the things for the Conservatives that they're really trying to drive home in people's minds, that this is all a continuation of Justin Trudeau. This doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter who wins. It's all the same. It's all the same person. It's all the same idea. But I think that's going to be the chief job of these candidates, is to show up differently. And I think one of the challenges is going to be to make sure people are actually listening to them. Of course, the Liberals are listening to the people who are vying to be their next leader. But Canadians seem to me, in many ways, to kind of tune Trudeau out. And so it's going to be a challenge to get people to tune back in again.
And they have 6 weeks, about 6 weeks to get their messages out. Laurie, thank you.
Thank you, too. Thanks for having me.
Laurie Turnbull is Professor of Political Science at Dalhousie University. We reached her in Ottawa this morning. We're at about 4 minutes before 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. Also on CBC Television and on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Lots to come in our next half hour of the program. First, though, let's head to your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. And Heather Wells joining us now. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, confusion around consultations on the proposed location for Manitoba's first supervised consumption site has left some people questioning the process. Months ago, Manitoba's Addictions Minister, Bernadette Smith, told CBC stakeholders within a 500-meter radius of that site would be consulted as part of federal requirements. However, a Health Canada spokesperson says there is no rule about geographic distance from the site. The province clarified this week the requirement was theirs. A Winnipeg immigration lawyer says Donald Trump's return to the White House may be driving some businesses north of the border. We'll hear about that. We'll hear about others as well who are considering a move north after the Trump election. All of that coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
All right. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. So far, no major closures or delays on your commute this morning, but watch for blowing snow conditions here in the city and on the highways as well. If you have any issues, call our commuter line, 204-788-3093, 204-788-3093. We are expecting cloudy conditions later today for Winnipeg with a temperature high of -2 degrees, but of course the snow continues. We're expecting about 2 centimeters to fall when the snow stops falling. That southerly wind at 30 kilometers an hour becoming light near noon as well. For tonight, more snow in the forecast, another 2 centimeters. And because of those westerly winds in the forecast and turning to northerly winds or winds from the north, gusting up to 60 overnight, you can expect some wind chill factors as well to have an impact on what it feels like. We'll give you a full look at your weather forecast in our next hour of the program. Stay tuned for that. And also coming up on the program, what is the state of sidewalks where you live? Are you happy with the snow clearing being done so far in the city? We're going to speak with a disability advocate who is looking for your pictures and stories. And just after World Report, we'll hear more about the first Black Student Union Summit happening in Winnipeg today. Students of all ages will gather tonight to talk about identity, activism, academic achievement, and so much more. We'll hear from one of the organizers about why this is important. I'm Faith Moudal in for Marcy Marcusa here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Goodbye to the folks watching on CBC Television, but you can continue on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Kevin Nipatebo is our streaming producer. Abby Ediemi is our technician. May McKillop, our studio director. Lots to come. Stay tuned. World Report is standing by.
Today on The Current.
Now that we understand that the province is not going to be bringing any interim housing, we need to find other solutions.
It has been 6 months since wildfires destroyed large parts of Jasper. Interim housing for those who lost their homes isn't yet even under construction. How to rebuild in the right way in the growing number of communities under threat, coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. We begin in Ontario, where Premier Doug Ford plans to call a provincial election next week, CBC News has learned. He doesn't have to send voters to the polls this early, but as Lisa Shing tells us, Conservative strategists are betting the timing is just right for Ford to secure another term in office.
Hopefully, we'll have a strong mandate.
Though he didn't outright say it, Ontario Premier Doug Ford is sending all the signals.
When you have a clear mandate from the people, I'm asking for a mandate from the people of Ontario to make sure that we protect them.
And now CBC News has confirmed Ford is planning to call a provincial election next Wednesday, which would send Ontarians to the polls at the end of February. That's more than a year ahead of schedule, putting months-long rumors to rest.
This ballot is Ford versus Trump.
Conservative strategist Andrew Brander says the timing is right. The PCs are ahead in the polls, and
everyone is going to believe that there's a risk associated with President Trump and that there is a need to have some strong leadership.
Ford has repeatedly said he needs a new mandate from Ontarians to spend billions of dollars in response to the potential economic devastation that would come with Donald Trump's threatened tariffs. And it would preempt a federal election. Former Liberal member of provincial parliament and political science professor at Wilfrid Laurier University, John Malloy.
If we experience month after month of layoffs, of high prices, of economic chaos that's being promised, people are going to look for someone to take their anger out.
Provincial opposition leaders say Ford already has a strong mandate and should not cause more uncertainty when there's already enough political chaos in Ottawa. Lisa Sheng, CBC News, Toronto.
Meanwhile, the federal Liberal leadership race is hurtling along at breakneck speed. Nomination packages are in. 7 candidates say they've submitted paperwork. Now it's up to the party to sign off on them, and the contenders have just days left to make sure their supporters are registered Liberals. Marina von Stackelberg has the latest.
You see the team here.
Seen as a front-runner, Mark Carney is flanked by a crowd of Liberals in downtown Ottawa. He's racked up the most endorsements so far from dozens of MPs. That includes 10 cabinet ministers.
We can put this economy back on track as a team.
Carney has no experience in politics, but says his background in finance and as the Bank of Canada governor has prepared him.
I've had many jobs. I've had many jobs where I came in at the top.
A huge emphasis is going to be reviving the party.
Likely his biggest opponent, former finance minister Chrystia Freeland. She promises to create a new leadership review process. It's a jab at Justin Trudeau, who long resisted calls from his own MPs to step down.
Liberal Party grassroots members and caucus need to have a greater say in what we do and how we do it.
Fellow former cabinet minister Karina Gould only has 2 Liberal MPs backing her campaign so far, but she says she's gathering support from voters across the country.
And what I think is really important for Canadians is for them to see that we're listening and we're changing our position on the things that they don't agree with.
7 candidates say they've submitted paperwork to run for leader. It could take more than a week before they're approved. The vote happens March 9th. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening sanctions against Russia if it fails to end the war in Ukraine. The president appeared on Fox News last night for the second part of his sit-down interview. The war is approaching the 3-year mark, and the fighting is not slowing down. Clear evidence of that, Kyiv hit by a barrage of Russian drones overnight. Briar Stewart has more.
Ukraine says it shot down just under half of the drones Russia launched overnight. But at least 3 people were killed when one slammed into a 10-story apartment building 25 kilometers from the capital. While Ukraine's cities and villages continue to be bombarded, Russia says it repelled a massive drone attack in more than a dozen regions. Video online shows people running away from a large fire in Ryazan, a region southeast of Moscow. U.S. President Donald Trump says he's ready to meet with Vladimir Putin immediately to try to end the war.
Every day we don't meet, soldiers are being killed on a battlefield.
If Russia's president doesn't negotiate, Trump threatened to sanction and tax Russian goods in response. In an interview with Fox News, Trump also had pointed words for Ukraine's president.
Zelensky, I will say this, he wants to settle now. He's had enough. He shouldn't have allowed this to happen either. No. You know, if he's no angel.
Russia is still pushing ahead in eastern Ukraine as Kyiv tries to replenish its depleted ranks by looking at ways to offer incentives to recruit younger men. This comes as South Korean officials say North Korea is preparing to send more troops to Russia, despite the fact that as many as 1,000 have already been killed. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Kharkiv.
In the second part of his Fox News interview last night, Trump also repeated his threat to use tariffs against China. He told host Sean Hannity he is reluctant but ready to use them.
One very big power over China, and that's tariffs. And they don't want them, and I'd rather not have to use it. But it's a tremendous power over China. China gets a lot of its money from the United States. They use that money to build a military. Isn't it crazy?
Trump is threatening to hit Beijing with 10% tariffs. He says fentanyl from China is making its way to the U.S. through Mexico and Canada. Under the terms of its ceasefire agreement with Hezbollah, Israel is due to pull its troops out of southern Lebanon by early Sunday morning. But it's not looking like that will happen. Israeli troops are still conducting sweeps in the region. The army says it destroyed several underground Hezbollah bunkers in the past week. And the Jerusalem Post reports that Israel's security cabinet has approved a decision for the IDF to stay in southern Lebanon beyond the deadline. Storm winds reaching over 150 kilometers an hour are slamming parts of the UK. Storm Eowyn is forcing millions of people in Scotland and Northern Ireland to stay inside. Rare red weather warnings are issued for those areas. That means high winds pose a danger to life. Officials in Ireland say 500,000 properties are without power, schools are closed, flights, buses, and trains in the area are cancelled. The storm is so far shaping up to be one of the most severe to ever hit the region. Just ahead of Australia Day weekend, an historic statue is defaced in Sydney.
The oldest statue of Captain Cook in Australia has just been vandalised. They've thrown some sort of red paint over it and they've broken off his hand and nose.
Local councillor Andrew Hay describing the damage. This is the second time in the last year the statue has been vandalised. James Cook was the British explorer and captain of the first Western ship to reach the east coast of Australia in 1770. About 2 decades later, a British fleet arrived and claimed the territory. Australia Day marks that event, but many Indigenous Australians call it Invasion Day, saying it symbolizes the destruction of their cultures by European settlers. Police in Saskatoon are trying to improve how they respond to intimate partner violence. The service is creating a specialized team following what it describes as a troubling increase in calls. Saskatchewan has the highest provincial rate of police-reported incidents in the country. As Alexander Silverman reports, advocates say the issue needs more resources.
The phone is ringing a lot.
Krista Barron says she's receiving a growing number of calls from women fleeing domestic violence. She runs Sophia House, which provides transitional housing to women and children. All 39 of its units are full, and the waiting list is getting longer.
Poverty, mental health, and addictions can contribute.
Saskatchewan is continuing to see a growing rate of police-reported intimate partner violence, with 710 victims per 100,000 people in 2023. Advocates say the largely rural province can make getting help difficult. That's an issue police in Saskatoon are hoping to reduce with a new dedicated team. Cameron McBride is chief of the Saskatoon Police Service. He says trained experts, like social workers, will work alongside officers.
We might see numbers rise simply because people feel more comfortable, more able to report that.
The program focuses on prevention by staying in touch with people at risk, but also potential offenders. Joanne Duzel is executive director of the Provincial Association of Transition House and Services.
It offers the person who is actually using violence opportunities to access supports to change their behavior.
Advocates also say they'd like to see school curriculums include more discussion on healthy relationships. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Regina.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Maligayang Biyernes. Happy Friday, Manitoba. Faith Fondal here in Studio 15 at Portage and Spence. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Coming up in this hour of the program, we'll speak with the Executive Director for the Manitoba League of Persons with Disabilities about the worst sidewalks in winter picture campaign that's still ahead on the program. We're also going to hear more because we'll go live to the Forks to meet some of the architects behind this year's warming huts. It's going to be fun. Shanley Vidal will be on the program in our next half hour. In this half hour next, though, Black History Month is hoping to make history with their first ever Black Student Union Summit. We'll hear more about what the summit is all about and why this is important for students right here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Stay tuned. First, though, let's head to your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. And Heather Wells joining us now. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a group of 17 organizations is calling for a review of a Manitoba PC leadership hopeful's candidacy. Wally Dowdrich came under fire earlier this month when his campaign team shared a post calling on, quote, Muslim Abi Khan to be stopped. Khan is also running to be party leader. The National Council of Canadian Muslims says it's reached out to Doddridge multiple times, hoping he would meet with the Manitoba Muslim organizations. The number of people experiencing homelessness in Brandon has jumped by 77% since 2021. That's according to the Brandon Neighborhood Renewal Corporation and its point-in-time homeless count. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Hello to the folks watching us on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Kevin Nipatebo is our streaming producer. And watching our weather today, Abby Adiemi, good morning.
Oh, no, it's going to be snow and windy to start the weekend. Temperatures colder as we move to the northern part of the province. In Winnipeg, we are at -11, light snow blowing outside. Open areas, you definitely feel that snow whipping around. Expect a cloudy start for the city. This snow would be bringing about 2 centimeters once the system sweeps by. The winds will ease by the noon period, becoming light. We'll see a high of -2 today. Then tonight, the snow continues with some more blowing snow overnight. Another 2 centimeters expected. So there's going to be some drifts tomorrow morning. For the other regions, we're looking at this snow. It's going to linger across the province from south all the way up. The southern regions from Brandon, Dauphin, all the way to the Interlakes will be facing light snow breezy conditions, while the northern part of the province would also get snow, but it's going to be colder. We're seeing -10, -12s already. While down south, we're seeing single digits. Brandon -6, Maleta -5, Portage -6, and Morden -7. But right now, Winnipeg, we are at -11 with some blowing snow outside.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
May McKillop has been following the commute this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. No major delays or closures to report on, but I will say those windy conditions are causing some blowing snow, which is really affecting visibility. In the city, I noticed it on my drive in as well. Underneath that blowing snow, it's causing some slippery conditions. Now here in the city, I haven't heard much. I got a call from Dan on a bike who said that the rapid transit conditions are good and the sidewalks are okay. Looking at highways outside of the city, though, Highway number 1 from Winnipeg to Brandon, we're starting to see some snow-covered conditions develop, and with that blowing snow, we're also seeing the reduced visibility again. I can see that the plow is making its way along Highway number 1 and Highway 16 from that number 1 intersection into Neepawa. Similar conditions, snow-covered, and some of that blowing snow causing low visibility. Take care on the highways out there, and if you're seeing anything, whether that's across the province or here in Winnipeg, give me a call and let me know. 204-788-3093.
Coming up to 15 minutes after 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, I'm Faith Fundal. Black History Month is just around the corner, and there's a very unique summit happening tonight that brings together Black student unions from different schools across the city. Black History Manitoba says it's the first summit of its kind. Students of all ages gathering to hear about identity, activism, social justice, and more. Nadia Thompson is Program Director and Chairperson for Black History Manitoba, joining us by Zoom to tell us more. Good morning, Nadia. Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. What about you? How are you managing as you get the summit ready?
We are busy, but it's a good thing. There is no complaints here. That is just life. This is February coming up, and it's a great time to celebrate and to be active in our community. So we're good.
Just 7.5 or so days before Black History Month. Why hold this summit? Why is this summit happening?
The summit's happening from the expertise of our community and our organizations. We have a lot of young people that are doing some really amazing things across the city, and we want to give them a space that they could all come together and connect and support each other, to get information from each other, and to share ideals that are right around Black History Month, Black History period, education, community connections, and just a way for us to bring everybody into one spot and talk together.
And I mentioned that this will be the first summit of its kind. What's your sense of why this was something that needed to be done? Is that what you heard from students?
Yeah, when I first talked about this idea, I brought it to our team and I said, being able to go across cities and provinces across Canada, we talk to so many different people, and they have such great ideas and programming all across Canada. And it's just interesting how we never come together in one spot and share those with each other. So we're going to start small and start here in Manitoba, because we have a lot of schools, excuse me, we have a lot of schools that are doing individual programming within their schools, within the universities, any educational, and sometimes outside into their community organizations, that they're doing work that should be acknowledged. And others have the ideals of doing something, and they may not be able to actually do it because they don't know where to start, or they don't have that support or that backup. So we thought this is a great idea, and we're always around to help assist, and we want to know what you're doing, and we want to know how we can participate and how we could enlighten everybody else as to what they're doing to share that information across the board.
So part of it is visibility. Part of it is also creating intentional space to have people be able to actually do it in front of other people and show other folks doing similar work about some of the things they're doing. But it's actually, in addition to that, there is a bigger thing here, right? And in particular, when you talk about unions, why would you say is it important to have Black student unions in particular in schools?
I believe it is. And the reason why we look at it this way is, when we're talking about unions, we're talking about the coming together of like-minded people. We're not talking about we're taking a stance and going on strike or doing anything like that. We're talking about students who look at other students as their peers and as their allies, people who have that same kind of idealistic way of thinking and giving back to the community and giving back to their school. It's very important to have that visibility and have that support. So when the schools are looking at these students who are looking for more of a safe space, a space where they're comfortable sharing and being themselves, and also educating about certain aspects of education that aren't taught generally throughout the school system, that is what we're trying to support, and to give them the open-mindedness of saying, yes, that's okay for you to have these groups come together and talk amongst themselves and share and be able to be prideful about your community, your background and your heritage and where you come from. It's not a segregated group where you're saying, we have to be this or you have to be that, but you have to have the same kind of idealistic way of thinking.
Are you also able, because you're creating the space, be able to go beyond the process or beyond the sort of the course outline look, and get to actually talk about why these sorts of things matter and the impact that not doing this kind of thing has?
I believe so. Like, we want to have, this doesn't necessarily have to be focused all on Black History Month. The program itself that we have created right now, we're talking about other outlets as well. So we're talking about mental health and well-being. We're talking about discrimination and racism. We're talking about arts and entertainment, entrepreneurship and business, public service and government. So we're trying to touch on multiple areas because that's what we've heard. So that's how we're getting that concept for what we're doing, and the breakout sessions and the discussions that we're having. It's because of those are the things that have been brought to us.
You're also presenting. What can folks expect?
I'm presenting about community, basically, and volunteering, giving of your time and the benefits on that, and also about just being active and doing something, not being afraid to give that time and not always having to get that immediate payback for it. Sometimes it takes some time, but it's always good. And we're at a point in our lives where sometimes we have to think about the future and what's going to happen. And if we have everybody, not able to give back their time, then who does these things and who keeps on these paths, and how do we keep our organizations and our community services going? So that's my part.
Nadia, thanks for making space to talk this morning, and have a good summit.
I appreciate you, and thank you so much.
Nadia Thompson, Program Director and Chairperson for Black History Manitoba. The summit is happening tonight at 7 o'clock at 17 St. Mary's Road. That's 17 St. Mary's Road. 21 minutes after 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. It has been 17 years since Julie Black last headlined her own cross-country tour. 2025 is the year that pause ends. The singer, who has been called Canada's Queen of R&B Soul, has announced dates for her Songs and Stories tour. She will play 14 dates starting in early February. From her most recent album, 3 Rocks and a Slingshot, this is I Love It, Bad Boy. That's Julie Black with I Love It, Bad Boy. Tickets for her Songs and Stories tour are on sale now, and she's going to be performing in Winnipeg on March 7th at the Park Theatre. We're at 26 minutes after 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. Scott Reguer joining us now from your CBC National Sports Desk. Good morning.
Happy Friday, Faith.
Happy Friday to you as well. You're going to be watching as the Jets host Utah tonight. What will you be looking for?
Well, I mean, the Jets are looking for a little bit of revenge, a little bit of payback, Faith, after what happened in Salt Lake City 5 nights ago, where Utah, I was going to try to use their nickname, but they don't have one yet, beat them 5-2 and kind of embarrassed them. Scott Arniel, the coach, said it was the most embarrassing outing of the season. So, yeah, will there be payback tonight by the Jets? They've certainly had their way against Central Division opponents this season. They have a record of 13-5. And just back to the Utah team, prevailing wisdom was that they were going to be named next year the Utah Yetis.
The Yetis.
Okay. I like the name, but the U.S. Patent Office denied that name earlier this week on the basis of it could be confused with the cooler company Yeti.
Oh, right.
So I guess it's now going to be the Mammoths or Blizzard. There's a few other in the running, but in my view anyway, nothing quite as entertaining as Yetis. In any case, Utah Hockey Club against the Winnipeg Jets tonight. Puck drop is at 7 o'clock.
Utah, yeah, that I'm not. Yeah, woo, go team. Sports
Rouses the senses, doesn't it?
Yeah, it totally does. Some major developments at the Australian Open as well, right?
For sure, Faith. There will be no record 25th Grand Slam title for Novak Djokovic. The Serbian great pulled out of the tournament this morning after he lost the first set of his semifinal to Alex Zverev. It's because of a torn muscle in Djokovic's leg, not that fans in Melbourne were particularly sympathetic.
This hurts all of us to see him go out like this. I can't believe some people are booing. That's bogus. And yeah, there's some people are booing and Novak's putting the thumbs up. That's just horrendous.
I would agree. Djokovic did not address the jeering crowd in his post-match interview, but his opponent Zverev did.
Don't boo a player when he goes out with injury. I know that everybody paid for tickets and everybody wants to see hopefully a great 5-set match and everything, but you got to understand Novak Djokovic is somebody that has given this sport for the past 20 years absolutely everything of his life. If he cannot continue a tennis match, it really means that he cannot continue a tennis match.
Yeah, here. There are questions, Faith, now over how long Djokovic will continue his tennis career. He turns 38 this year. He's just been denied the Grand Slam event he's had by far the most success in. And there are also a slew of players on the tour right now who are a generation younger than he is, including Jannik Sinner, who won today's other semifinal. He will face Zverev in the championship match. Meantime, no more CanCon in Melbourne. Ottawa's Gabby Dabrowski and her partner lost their doubles semifinal.
Yeah, booing competitor. Not a fan of that.
Not cool.
Unless you're in hockey, then you get sucked in. Never mind.
Yeah.
Super Bowl combatants, we will know who they will be by the end of the weekend.
We will. Sunday's conference finals, Faith, feature Washington and Philadelphia, followed by Kansas City and Buffalo. The Commanders are led by likely Rookie of the Year Jaden Daniels, who will be taking on the Eagles' league best defense. The Bills, meantime, have leading MVP candidate Josh Allen, who will try and halt KC's pursuit of a record third straight championship. Now, if you're neutral and looking for a team to support this weekend, might I suggest Buffalo? Perennial underdogs, best known for being the only team to ever fall in 4 straight Super Bowls, the Bills are the league's lovable losers. Just look at the celebrity following of the NFL's remaining teams. The Eagles have actors Mark Wahlberg and Bradley Cooper, the Commanders Matthew McConaughey, and Kansas City a certain pop star. How about the Bills?
I'm CNN's Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room, and here's my situation with the Buffalo Bills. I've always loved them.
Won't find Wolf Blitzer on the red carpets at the upcoming Academy Awards or at the Grammys. Go Bills, go!
Scott, take care.
You too.
Scott Reguer from your CBC National Sports Desk. So those will be the potential architects of the Super Bowl. In our next half hour, we're going to meet some of the architects behind this year's warming huts. Coming up after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 7:30. We've got some light and blowing snow out at the airport. It is -11. Couple centimeters of snow on the way today, a mild high of -2, and then a bit of wind tonight with more snow creating some blowing snow overnight. A group of 17 organizations is calling for a review of a Manitoba PC leadership hopeful's candidacy. Wally Dowdrich came under fire earlier this month when his campaign team shared a post calling on, quote, Muslim Abi Khan to be stopped. Khan is also running to be the party's next leader. The National Council of Canadian Muslims has reached out to Dowdrich multiple times, it says, hoping he would meet with Manitoba Muslim Organization. Sadaf Ahmed is a provincial advocacy officer with the council.
It's easy enough to apologize, right? One really has to ask why it's difficult for a candidate seeking leadership at the provincial level to refuse to apologize. It's unbecoming. It's not befitting someone in that position.
The council is asking for the PC Leadership Election Committee to conduct a robust review of Dowdrich's actions. Confusion around consultations on the proposed location for Manitoba's first supervised consumption site have some people questioning the process. Months ago, Manitoba's Addictions Minister Bernadette Smith told CBC stakeholders within a 500-meter radius of the site would be consulted as part of federal requirements. However, a Health Canada spokesperson says there is no rule about geographic distance from the site. The province clarified this week the requirement was theirs. Smith says the government is going above and beyond that to seek feedback from people in the area.
We're not set on a site. We want to hear feedback from the community. And is this the right, location? That's why we're doing these consultations, to hear from the community.
Smith says consultations are ongoing with more set to take place in the coming weeks. The number of people experiencing homelessness in Brandon has jumped by 77% since 2021. The Brandon Neighborhood Renewal Corporation says its point-in-time homeless count identified 229 unhoused people in October of 2024. That is up from 129 people in 2021. Executive Director Roshana Newman says other data shows more than 900 people experienced homelessness at some point in 2024.
I'm expecting the numbers to continue rising if we don't have more affordable housing units. The solution to housing is not shelters, it's housing. We need housing units and we need affordable housing units.
The Brandon Neighborhood Renewal Corporation has created programs to help end homelessness, including opening 2 safe homes for women and a daytime drop-in program. A Winnipeg immigration lawyer says the return of Donald Trump to the White House appears to be spurring some people in the U.S. to look at moving into Canada. Sophia Mirza is a partner at Fillmore Riley. She has received requests from American business owners thinking about trying to run their businesses from Canada. And she says others, like those on work or study permits, have also been inquiring about temporary or permanent moves.
The majority of the inquiries that I've been getting over the last couple of months have been related to individuals that are looking to leave the United States and come to Canada.
Mirza says people have explicitly said they have concerns or were uncertain about what to expect in the United States and wanted to keep their options open. U.S. President Donald Trump is demanding an immediate end to the war in Ukraine and warned of what he may do if it doesn't end.
If they don't settle this war soon, like almost immediately, I'm going to put massive tariffs on Russia and massive taxes and also big sanctions. And I don't want to do that, but we got to get this war ended. And if they don't make a settlement like fast, and Zelensky, I will say this, he wants to settle now. He's had enough.
Trump on Fox News last night also criticizing Ukraine for taking on a bigger enemy and former President Joe Biden for the billions of dollars of American aid to Ukraine. The war will enter its 4th year later next month. A monster winter storm has now reached Scotland after roaring across most of Ireland overnight. Storm Éowyn slamming into Ireland. Here is meteorologist Liz Bentley.
One of the strongest storms we've seen for years. I mean, it's been called the storm of the century in the Republic of Ireland. And red warnings in place across the whole of the Republic of Ireland. It came into force across Northern Ireland at 7 a.m. this morning and will come into force at 10 a.m. across central Scotland. So we see that storm transferring from the west of Ireland, or the strongest of the winds from the west of Ireland into Northern Ireland and then into Scotland over the course of the next few hours.
Red weather warnings are issued when conditions pose a danger to life. The storm is delivering record winds of anywhere between 150 and 180 kilometers an hour. At least 500 people in Ireland are without power. Across Scotland and northern England, schools and businesses are closed, with trains and flights being cancelled. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8, and you can find more Manitoba news anytime at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. I'm Faith Mundal here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Abby Adiemi also here with a look at your weather today. Good morning.
Good morning. Once again, looking across the regions, we're seeing a mix of snowy conditions and blowing snow down south here, and that should continue for most of the day. In Winnipeg and the Red River Valley region, temperatures around -11, light and blowing snow is being felt around. We should see about 2 centimeters accumulation once the system passes this morning. The winds will become lighter by midday. Our high would be around -2 today. It will feel colder with the wind chills, and then tonight the snow will continue. Another 2 centimeters expected and some blowing snow overnight. We're looking at similar conditions in the Pembina Valley region, Morden, Winkler, Altona, Morris. Temperatures around -6, -7 at this time, and snow is falling. High around -1. Heading west to Brandon, -6 with light snow, high of -2. Similar conditions in Dauphin, -4, high -2. Gimli's around -11 at this time. The Interlake region is having light snow and blizzard conditions. Expect about 2 centimeters of snow and a high of -3. And the powerful influencing light snow also in that part. That would be with you throughout the day. Expect breezy conditions. Temperature gets to -7. And Thompson, Churchill, both seeing light snow at this time. Temperatures around -12, and it feels colder with the wind chill factored in, though the skies should be clearing tonight. So across board, we have more like a snowy conditions today with some winds to sweep it around.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
It's Abby Adiemi, our technician today, also watching the weather. May McKillop, following the commute this morning. Hello.
Hello. We got a couple calls. Nora's called to let us know that there's a collision on northbound Route 90. This is just south of Scurfield, blocking the left lane. As well, we got a call from someone traveling along the highways outside of the city, and let us know about a collision on Highway 15 at the Highway 207 intersection. As well, she called to let us know that traveling from Enola to Winnipeg along Highway 15, there's lots of snow drifts. So thank you for those calls. If you're listening out there and seeing anything along the way of your commute, call and let us know, and I'll pass that message along. 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks very much. May McKillop, our studio director here on the program. Hello to the folks watching us on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. And coming up in this half hour, we're going to speak with the executive director for the Manitoba League of Persons with Disabilities about the worst sidewalks in winter picture campaign that's still to come. First, though, it is art with a function. This year's warming huts will be unveiled at the Forks today. You'll be able to see 6 new designs on the river trail. And CBC Manitoba community reporter Shanley Vidal is on the ice now, where she is getting an early look. Shanley, tell us about the warming hut that you're at.
Hi, Faith. I am at Prairie Castle. It is a warming hut that actually looks like a grain elevator. It is decorated so colorfully in all different shades of red, blue, yellow, all in rectangular shapes. And it was designed by a team from Scotland. We're joined by Nick Green and Greg Thierry. Hello to you both.
Hi.
So what is the inspiration for this colorful grain elevator warming hut?
So the inspiration is taken from a lot of grain elevators from across Canada, and taken all the sort of vivid colours of the landscape and the grain elevators and combined them into this beautifully vibrant and colourful pattern.
I almost want to go visit some Scottish castles now, but I'm wondering what it was like to construct this thing, because it's quite tall. It looks like it might be 1.5 stories tall, almost 2 stories tall. What was the construction like? Because I know, one of you is an architect, one of you is a graphic designer. So Nick, you're the architect, so let's start with that.
So I'm the architect. Yeah, so it's kind of quite a straightforward construction. It's just a bit like a barn, kind of cladding on a timber frame. But obviously it was built in two halves, and then we were watching it get lifted on top of it, like the two halves get lifted on top of each other yesterday, and that was really cool to see. So yeah.
And tell me about your part, Greg.
So I am a graphic designer, so my part was to create the pattern and pick all the colours and make sure that they all work together and contrasted nicely so that they stand out in the snow and are seen from miles around.
What's interesting too, I was inside and there's a lovely bench, but it made me feel of like a cathedral or something like that, almost like stained glass, because you can see some colors in there. Where did that idea come in?
Yeah, so we wanted the inside to be quite kind of a contrast from the kind of outside, which is quite busy and kind of colourful and bright and cheerful. So inside it's a nice dark blue, and we've got the like stained glass effect that kind of should bring some nice hints of colour inside, but in a bit more of a relaxing kind of sheltered way.
What's it like to bring a little bit of Scotland to Winnipeg?
Yeah, it's something that we really wanted to include in our design so that it's personal to both us and hopefully personal to the people of Manitoba, and something that's instantly recognisable by everyone. And the form takes the shape of both the grain elevator and takes inspiration from the castle too. So it's a little bit of us and a little bit of Manitoba in one beautiful shape.
And you were recognized. So you're one of 3 international teams out of 140. What does it mean to be recognized like that?
I mean, it's really great. It's really great to know people that were really drawn to our design and picked it. It's just a brilliant opportunity as us as designers to come across and do something like this. So yeah, it feels really special.
What about you, Greg?
Yeah, the same. It's just, we really love Canada, so having something here that represents us is just amazing to us.
Now, you both have created work that's, could be seen all over the world, and your most recent one was kind of like a lighthouse. Why did you want to come to Winnipeg? I understand this is your first time here.
Yeah, it's nowhere that we've been in Canada before is like this. It's just such a change. We've been around Canada, we've explored a lot of it. We're just always taken aback by how friendly everyone is and how amazing the landscapes are. So just to witness another different place is just really something special to us. So it's great, yeah.
It's just great to see some proper snow. It's proper cold, yeah.
And you two missed the snowstorm because you just got in on Wednesday, I understand.
Yeah, so that sounds like a good idea that we came on Wednesday. But yeah, minus 25 is cold enough for us.
Now, so this warming hut is near the skating rink right now, but it's not going to stay there. It's going to be moved soon. So what's going to be happening with that?
So the idea is that it'll go down onto the river and go at kind of the meeting point of the two rivers, so that it should be in a really big open landscape and it will really stand out. So yeah, that should be happening later today or maybe tomorrow morning.
And I understand, your team got to pick where on the river this goes. Why did you want that spot?
We think we wanted somewhere that was really bright and open and had a nice sort of background to it, so that personally we could get a lot of nice pictures of it before we head off, and really somewhere that stands out and people are drawn to, and takes them down to the river to really enjoy it, and it's where it should be. Yeah.
Nick Green and Greg Perry, thank you both so much for making time to speak with me about Prairie Castle. I hope you enjoy the rest of your stay here in Winnipeg. Back to you, Faith. Okay, and we are out. Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you so much. That was great.
Awesome. Thanks.
Okay. Okay.
A little bit of time now between now and
another warming hut. At about 15 minutes before 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, Toronto's The Weather Station has a new album. Take a listen. This one's called Body Moves.
At the end of the world, you said your body fooled you, your body moved you out. Now you can't go home again. You were crying, you're so confused why your body fooled you, your body moved you out of that thing that you were in. And a cold sweat 'cause you want somebody. You caused the harm, you made it so. You had to confess, 'cause you can't hide that bad mess. You were high, numb, spacing out. You messed around and you failed the test. You made it so. You had to address the body that's beneath all of this. And at the end of the world, your eyes, they fooled you. Your eyes, they move you now. You're seeing way too far. Scared, lost, under duress. You beg at someone for forgiveness. You don't know what you had to address. Your body fooled you. Your body moved you. Yes, now what you had to do is figure out why it had to fool you. Were you lost? How were you blind? Were you trying too hard to be kind? Was it truth? Was it lies? Was it some kind of trap that you devised to keep yourself from getting out? Ooh, but it hurt so much. You thought you knew what it was you loved. Then again, look at this mess. Your body fooled you. Your body moved you, yes.
That's the weather station with Body Moves, that track from the album Humanhood.
The cold of winter melted by an array of floral artistry to warm your soul. Fleur de Ville Artiste comes to the Leaf at Assiniboine Park January 16th to 26th. Bedazzled by figurines decorated in flowery fashions, designed by Manitoba's vibrant art scene and blossoming floral talent. Fleur de Ville Artiste, proudly sponsored by CBC. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
Be an Iron Man and curl. No, not your hair. This is curling on the frozen ice of the Assiniboine River. Ironman Outdoor Curling Bonspiel is back February 7th to 9th. Form a team, embrace the winter with one hand, a rock with the other, and join the Ironman Outdoor Curling Bonspiel, sponsored by CBC. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
11 minutes before 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, I'm Faith Fundal. Take a picture. It'll last longer. No, really. A campaign looking for the worst plowed sidewalks in Winnipeg needs your help. Advocates calling on Winnipeggers to pull out their cameras and take a photo when they encounter a snow barrier. Could be a pile of freshly plowed snow drifting onto the sidewalk, or chunks of frozen snow blocking a pathway, or dangerous icy patches. The Snow Plow campaign, and the word "no" is in brackets, created by members of the Manitoba League of Persons with Disabilities. The campaign in its second year now. Melissa Graham is executive director and joining us now on the line. Welcome to the program. Hello.
Hi, Faith.
Melissa, you use a power chair. How would you rate the sidewalks that you've used since those big dumps that we've had?
I mean, I can barely give them a passing grade some days, but it varies a lot through our community. I'm lucky I live in a neighborhood where they're usually pretty good, but it's hit and miss out there. for sure.
Are there any specific areas in the city that seems to be a big deal, or what's your impression of where those areas are?
Well, a lot of times what we find is the neighborhoods that, tend to be the noisiest about this issue tend to get more well-plowed sidewalks. But also, even in the areas where sidewalks are plowed well, there are still issues of like windrows, which is when you have two sidewalks crossing each other and you get like a bump of snow that hasn't been cleared between the two sidewalks, or a similar bump of snow between a sidewalk and road, or like what we're getting pictures of are things like sidewalks where the driver has completely missed the sidewalk altogether, and you can't drive on that path because it's only like half covering the sidewalk, and also street furniture where the snow gets built up beside like the poles where you have to push the button to cross the street. So I guess altogether, often the city's fairly passing. Of course, if we had just gotten a snowfall, I'd probably give it a lower grade. It takes time.
And so, as I mentioned, it's the second year of this campaign. Why do it again? What impact did it have last year?
Well, honestly, the city told us it was very helpful. What we do is collect the photos and stories from Winnipeggers who submit them and send them directly to people that are in charge of the plow operations in the city. We also, later in the year, share those photos and stories with snowplow operators and policymakers to help inform their decisions they're making about snowplowing.
So really, you're trying to be the middle person so that people can feel like when they, I guess part of it is so that it feels like they're able to do something, or something is within their control, but also know that you folks will actually send it to the people that need to see them.
Yes, absolutely. We've actually had the city ask for our photos and stories after the first year. They directly said they were helpful. So
were you surprised when you heard from the city that this was something that helped them and they wanted you to do it again?
Yes, absolutely. It especially helps them to know where these photos are taken and what that experience has been. I think from our last year is that what I've learned, even snowplow operators and people at the city who have good intentions really don't understand what an accessibility barrier and improperly cleared sidewalk can be. So a picture speaks 1,000 words, right? Like, if you can show someone a picture of just how it's creating an obstruction, or you can share your story of how it's preventing you from like getting out your door, from getting where you need to go, that really impacts people in their desire to do a good job and to make our sidewalks clearer.
What have you heard from people who have sent those photos in?
Who have not been able to get out because of sidewalks?
Mm-hmm.
I know people that don't even leave their house all winter because they're afraid to go out of the sidewalks. They're afraid of getting stuck. Like, if you think about some of the temperatures we have, if you get stuck in one of those sidewalks and you're out there for like even 15 minutes, that's a big deal. Like, it gets very cold very quickly.
Did you get a sense? Did you get a sense from the folks who sent photos last year and folks who have sent photos so far this year about how they felt about the doing part of it, in terms of did it allay any of the concerns or the frustrations?
Well, I think it's giving people an opportunity to share that frustration. I know for myself, when you're out on the sidewalks and you're getting stuck, it can feel like the city doesn't care, and like nobody cares about the situation you're in, just trying to get from A to B. So I think the sense that someone is listening, someone actually wants to know if things need to get better and how it's impacting them. I think we're hearing, at least anecdotally, that this is a good thing, that people are having this opportunity. Like, I hear from people all the time before we started the snowplow campaign, just from having other people without disabilities seeing me get around, that all of a sudden when they see me, they realize, like, oh yeah, the sidewalks need to be clear. But it's often not something that people think about until they hear these stories and they see the image of someone trying to get through.
So how does it work? You see a photo, take a photo, and then what do people do next?
So we have a couple of options. We have a Facebook page for folks that have Facebook. We have a Google form that you can fill out and share a few details about your story, like where the photo was taken. And then we have an email address where you can just contact us directly, whatever is easiest for you. It's really helpful for us to know where the photo was taken. We're trying to capture all neighborhoods in the city, not just the ones that, tend to get more attention. We want to make sure that people up in the North End are sending us photos, as well as people in Wolseley and other areas. It's important that sidewalk snow clearing is equitable across the city, right? So yeah, but even if you can't take a photo, because I know sometimes even for myself, you're crossing a street, you're focused on crossing the street, you're not really thinking, oh, I should have grabbed my phone and taken a picture. Even just sharing that story is fine if you don't get a chance to take a picture. Or if you're a person that doesn't have a disability, and you see a sidewalk that isn't clear, maybe it's not impacting you directly, but you see it, you think it could be a barrier for someone, please send us your photo anyway. That's helpful.
Melissa, thanks for making space and time today.
No problem. Thank you, Faith.
Melissa Graham is Executive Director of Manitoba Leagues of Persons with a Disability. She's also one of the organizers behind the Snow Plow campaign, and no is in brackets. Let's head to your CBC Winnipeg local news desk, and Heather Wells joining us now. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, more than 200 people at the Manitoba National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg will soon be out of a job. The Union of Health and Environment Workers represents federal government employees at that lab. It says the Public Health Agency of Canada says the federal government is not renewing contracts of more than 800 employees, including the 245 working at the microbiology lab in Winnipeg. These were jobs connected with the pandemic, so we'll hear more about that. And the number of people experiencing homelessness in Brandon has jumped by 77% since 2021. That is according to the Brandon Neighborhood Renewal Corporation and its point-in-time homeless count. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
All right, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. I'm Faith Mondalian for Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app, and as well on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Good morning. Kevin Ipatebo is our streaming producer. Abby Adiemi on the controls. He'll be back with a full look at your weather forecast. The too long didn't read or listen. Snow today, cloudy later today, and a temperature high of -2 degrees. If you see any issues on your commute, call our commuter line 204-788-3093, 204-788-3093. May McKillop will be taking your phone calls. Now stay tuned, because in our next half hour of the program, we'll be live again from the Nestaway River Trail, where the new warming huts are on display. Shanley Vidal will talk to us. And as part of a CBC National series featuring stories from new Canadians, we'll check in with newcomers here in Manitoba. With a nonprofit that often assists immigrants, they'll share what they've been hearing and seeing. Coming up next, after World Report. Stay tuned.
Today on Q.
After winning the Oscar for Best Actor, Adrian Brody returned to critical acclaim with his portrayal of a Jewish-Hungarian immigrant who's also a brilliant architect in the film The Brutalist.
My buildings were devised to endure such erosion.
He'll talk about the responsibility that comes with telling an immigrant story in 2025.
Q with Tom Power, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
It has been 6 months since wildfires destroyed large parts of Jasper. Interim housing for those who lost their homes isn't yet even under construction. How to rebuild in the right way in the growing number of communities under threat, coming up on The Current.
This is World Report.
Good morning, I'm John Northcott. We begin in Ontario, where Premier Doug Ford plans to call a provincial election next week, CBC News has learned. He doesn't have to send voters to the polls this early, but as Lisa Shing tells us, Conservative strategists are betting the timing is just right for Ford to secure another term in office.
Hopefully, we'll have a strong mandate.
Though he didn't outright say it, Ontario Premier Doug Ford is sending all the signals.
When you have a clear mandate from the people, I'm asking for a mandate from the people of Ontario to make sure that we protect them.
And now CBC News has confirmed Ford is planning to call a provincial election next Wednesday, which would send Ontarians to the polls at the end of February. That's more than a year ahead of schedule, putting months-long rumors to rest.
This ballot is Ford versus Trump.
Conservative strategist Andrew Brander says the timing is right. The PCs are ahead in the polls and
everyone is going to believe that there's a risk associated with President Trump and that there is a need to have some strong leadership.
Ford has repeatedly said he needs a new mandate from Ontarians to spend billions of dollars in response to the potential economic devastation that would come with Donald Trump's threatened tariffs. And it would preempt a federal election. Former Liberal member of provincial parliament and political science professor at Wilfrid Laurier University, John Malloy.
If we experience month after month of layoffs, of high prices, of economic chaos that's being promised, people are going to look for someone to take their anger out.
Provincial opposition leaders say Ford already has a strong mandate and should not cause more uncertainty when there's already enough political chaos in Ottawa. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Federal Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne is chiding the CEO of Amazon. He says it's not too late to reconsider Amazon's decision to close 7 warehouses in Quebec and urged him to do so. Champagne says Amazon has a significant impact on local economies in Quebec, and the decision to close the warehouses raises questions about Amazon's commitment to its Canadian partners. The Israel-Hamas ceasefire in Gaza is allowing more people to return home. Palestinians getting ready to move back to some of the cities they were ordered to leave, and more Israeli hostages could soon be freed. The CBC's Sasha Petrusek is at the Israel-Gaza border. Sasha, what do we know about the aid situation in Gaza?
Well, John, the United Nations and other agencies have been quite happy with the increase in aid that's been able to make it in. They're saying that we're seeing an average of 780 aid trucks are getting into Gaza from different entrances. Most of that is food, and they're especially happy that it is able to be distributed inside Gaza. That was a big, big worry because of the condition of the roads, the infrastructure. Their only challenge now is that there's really nowhere to put this aid. It has to be distributed right away because there are no warehouses. Those have been destroyed. That sort of thing has been a bit of a challenge. And it will be especially challenging over the next few days because a lot of people will be moving from the south to the north into Gaza City. In those areas, there are tent cities being put up there, but the aid demand is going to be huge there as well.
So, Sasha, as part of this ceasefire deal, more Israeli hostages are supposed to be released tomorrow. Tell us about that.
That's right. According to the schedule, 4 hostages are supposed to be released. These 4 are supposed to be women, 1 civilian, and 3 female soldiers who will be released in much the same way that we saw last time, handed by the Hamas militants to Red Cross officials who will then drive them to the Israeli military. And then they will be helicoptered to hospital and to meet their families. In exchange, Israel has committed to release Palestinian prisoners. This weekend, it would be 180. That is 50 for each female soldier and 30 for each female civilian who will be released by Hamas. So that exchange is supposed to start tomorrow afternoon in Gaza.
Sasha Petrusek on the Israel-Gaza border. Thanks, Sasha.
My pleasure, John.
Meanwhile, the Palestinian Wafa news agency is reporting Israeli forces have arrested 22 people in the past 24 hours in the occupied West Bank. Israel's military has been ramping up an operation near Jenin since the ceasefire in Gaza took hold. Hundreds of people have packed up and left the Jenin refugee camp. At least 10 were reported killed in this week's operation. The Israeli military says it's trying to prevent militants from regrouping and attacking Israeli civilians. U.S. President Donald Trump is heading to California today to tour the areas damaged by recent wildfires. The visit comes as the president is criticizing the state for its handling of the crisis. In particular, he's targeting Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom and threatening to withhold federal aid. Steve Futterman reports.
As fires continue here, the question is whether Donald Trump will be willing to offer California federal aid. And if he does, will there be conditions?
I don't think we should give California anything until they let water flow down into there.
Much of this has to do with Trump's relationship with his longtime critic, Gavin Newsom. Trump says the California governor's policies have led to the deadly fires, especially what Trump says is a policy to prevent water from Northern California to come south. Newsom refutes the claim. Trying to be diplomatic, he says he welcomes Trump's visit.
I'm glad he's coming out here. I'm grateful that the president's taking the time. I hope he does take the time to listen to the folks impacted directly by these wildfires.
Meanwhile, thousands of firefighters continue to battle the various blazes. One of the newest, the Hughes fire, is now more than 30% contained. Today, winds are expected to diminish, and there is hope this weekend that there will be a bit of rain. In some areas, the forecast calls for up to 25 millimeters. Steve Futterman for CBC News, Los Angeles.
Canadian actor Simu Liu is using the social media app Donald Trump recently saved from a U.S.-wide ban to criticize the U.S. president's proposed tax plan. Liu lives in the California Hollywood Hills. He took to TikTok to point out with his income, he would be eligible for a tax cut under the new plan. But Americans who make less than $360,000 a year would see their taxes go up.
I think it's clear to me what's really happening, which is that capitalism is running rampant, and there's massive deregulation that's really allowing for the creation of these multi-billionaires who have at this point amassed so much wealth that they can buy media companies and very easily influence, politics and policy. And I guess it's all just a little bit scary to me in a very roundabout way of saying that I don't need tax cuts.
Trump's tax plan still has to go before Congress for approval. Liu promised to donate any money he saves as a result of the new tax policy. A joint investigation between the Fifth Estate, Marketplace, and Radio-Canada's Enquête and La Facture is looking into the changing landscape in pet care. From corporate takeovers to the cost and availability of pet medication, most Canadians don't realize they can get their pet's prescription filled at a pharmacy. But as the Fifth Estate found, it's not always that easy. Stephen D'Souza has the story.
Good. Jump. Good. Left.
Grace Frankel savors the moments she has with Finnegan. The Australian Shepherd almost died 2 years ago.
Have a seizure and then you'd have another.
As a clinical pharmacist, she knew of a new drug that her vet did not.
Because I had those connections that I'm forever grateful for, we were able to save him.
But right now, Canadians can't easily buy pet meds from a pharmacist. A joint CBC Radio-Canada investigation found some veterinary regulators, drug companies, and distributors are shutting out pharmacists.
I really felt I was bullied.
For years, pharmacist Wendy Choi got most of her supply from a veterinarian. But after the Ontario vet regulator changed the rules and a drug maker filed a complaint, Choi felt the industry was against her.
Vet medication only being sold in vet clinics.
Choi reported the issue to Canada's Competition Bureau. Competition Law Officer Yusuf Zine El Abedin says they found a system of exclusive distribution.
Which means that the drug manufacturers sell exclusively to distributors, who then sell exclusively to veterinarians.
The Competition Bureau says Canadians need wider access to pet meds. But Dr. Tim Arthur, president of the Canadian Veterinary Medical Association, says animal safety is an issue.
Human pharmacists know nothing about the species I'm treating.
He also says giving pharmacists more access will hurt vets' bottom line, so prices in other areas may go up. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, Toronto.
Pet Care Inc. airs tonight on the Fifth Estate on CBC Television and GEM at 9 p.m. and on YouTube at 1 p.m. Eastern. Well, that is the latest national and international news from World Report. Remember, for news anytime, go to our website, cbcnews.ca. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Maligayang Biyernes. Happy Friday, Manitoba. Faith Fundal here in Studio 15 at Portage and Spence, sitting in for Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Coming up in this hour, half hour of the program, snow and clay form a gathering place rooted in nature. We'll meet the artists behind the Rosemary School Warming Hut at the Fork. Shanley Vidal joins us live coming up in this half hour. Also, how friendly are Manitobans to newcomers? We've been asking that question all week on the show. We're going to hear from a Winnipeg nonprofit that says friendliness has always been a challenge, but now it's leading to safety concerns for many new Canadians. That conversation coming up next here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. Stay tuned. First, though, let's head to our CBC Winnipeg local news desk, and Heather Wells joining us now. Good morning.
Good morning. A longtime resident of the Manwin Hotel says he and others who live there should not be forced to leave. Inspectors from the city of Winnipeg say parts of that Main Street building are unsafe. As we've been telling you this week, 34 tenants have been ordered to find other places to live. One is Ken, who says he feels safe in the Manwin and shouldn't be forced out of his home. More than 200 at the people at the National Microbiology Lab here in Winnipeg are soon going to be out of a job. The Union for the Workers has been told the federal government is not renewing the contracts of more than 800 employees across the country, and that includes 245 working at the Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 8:30.
All right, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Hello to the folks watching us on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Kevin Nipatebo is our streaming producer. Good morning to him. And good morning to Abby Adiemi following the weather. Hello.
Hi there, how you doing?
It's warmer.
Yeah, it's warmer and milder down south, but we still have to deal with the snow that is sweeping across the province. We will definitely see, this light snow this morning down south, and then more colder temperatures as you travel up north. Breezy conditions will come throughout the province with temperatures dropping as we move northward. But in Winnipeg, still at minus 11. We saw that light snow in parts of the city. We're going to see some breezy conditions making it even feel cold and sweeping it around, and we should see about 2 centimeters of fresh powder on the ground once the system goes through, and then the winds will be calm as we get closer to the noon period, and that gustiness you're feeling this morning won't be as bad when you get past the afternoon period. A high for today would get to -2, but it will feel colder with the wind chill due to this 30 kilometers wind gust that we're getting this morning. However, currently we are at minus 11.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
That is Abby Adiemi here, our technician, and following the weather. May McKillop has been following the commute so far this morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. It has gotten busy. Many calls about in the city and along the highways. I'll let our listeners know. I heard about a collision on northbound Route 90, just south of Scurfield. It's blocking the left lane. As well, we got a call about southbound Route 90, northern Route 90, southbound direction at Inkster is very backed up. Now, the caller didn't know why, so if you're listening from that area and you wanted to give me a call, I would love to know what's going on there. It sounds like quite a big backup. As well, there's a closure at Redwood. Emergency crews are blocking the northbound lanes on McGregor. And then taking a look at the highways outside of the city, we got a call about Highway 16 through the Birdtail Valley. It's fully covered with snow. As well in that area, Thomas called about west of Shoal Lake. The roads are fully covered in wet snow. As well, there's a collision on Highway number 15 at the intersection of Highway 207 it is. As well, looking at the Highway number 7, we got a call from a driver on Highway number 7 from Stoney to Inkster, warning that it looks okay, but underneath is black ice. So please do take care. We know with this wind, we're seeing a lot of blowing snow conditions and some slippery conditions underneath that blowing snow. Anything else you're seeing along the commute, give me a call and let me know. 204-788-3093.
Now, we were hoping to hear from a Winnipegger in this half hour of the program. We're unable to get to them today, but we'll try to get them on the program a different day. Have you ever gone online to research a medical concern? If you have, you're not alone. A third of Canadians have done this, according to a recent poll. They look for information online to help figure out a personal medical concern. It's according to the Canadian Medical Association and Abacus data. It found 37% of respondents used medical advice they found online because they couldn't access a doctor or a medical professional for help. The CBC's Karsten Knox headed out to ask folks about their self-diagnosis experience.
Hi, I work for the CBC. I'm asking people today if they've ever gone online to try to diagnose a personal medical concern.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how did that work out for you?
Sometimes all right, sometimes pretty bad.
What happened when it was pretty bad?
Well, definitely there's a lot of chronic illnesses and cancers that you can start thinking you have when you, have a bit of pain somewhere and try to figure it out online.
There's a lot of information out there, so it's a little overwhelming.
They show you a lot of different results. Most of them are the worst case scenarios.
Oh, yeah, no.
No, how come?
Because I know what my problems are.
Okay, but you don't go researching your concerns.
No, I never do.
No. Do you not trust the internet?
No, it's not that I'm not. I just go to a walk-in clinic, and if I have something wrong and my problems that I do have, I already have doctors for those, so yeah.
I work in healthcare, so no.
Okay, so you have a doctor for anything that might come up.
Yes.
Would you recommend anyone do their own research?
Probably not if you don't know what you're looking up, yeah.
Though not everyone has a doctor, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, what do people do? The internet is this huge resource of information, but you don't always know what you're going to get, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess it just depends on the person and your comfort of looking online and, what you're reading, if you're understanding it. And if you have questions, reach out to someone who is a trained professional.
Did you end up going to a doctor?
That would be great, wouldn't it? I don't have a family doctor, so no.
So any advice for people who might be doing the same thing?
Take it all with a grain of salt and make sure you're checking your sources and do not rely on AI.
Most of it is just bad stuff. It'll show you the worst results first, and it might not even be related to what you have.
As long as you search up the right things and know what you're looking at, then you're okay, but don't just listen to the first search.
Did you feel like you got an accurate picture of what you were looking for?
Yeah, not very much. A little bit, though. And I should probably go see a doctor.
Well, no, I think it's kind of like with the old saying about lawyers, that a person who represents themselves as a fool for a client. And so since I don't have any way of telling what might be true or false amongst the things that have been happening in medicine, it would be silly for me to attempt to figure it out myself.
John, thank you so much for your thoughts on this. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, take care.
You too.
The CBC's Karsten Knox asking people about their internet health research. I have never heard of that saying that John said, but okay, sure. Yeah, that works. What about you? Have you ever, do you remember a time where you've gone to Dr. Internet, Dr. Google? Abby Adiemi, I'm guessing you have an example.
No, I think what I did sometime, because I know I suffer migraines from time to time, and I know my symptoms, and I tried asking ChatGPT, and it wasn't really nice what I got. And I'm like, no, that's not what's going on.
As my best friend Stacy likes to say to me, put your medical degree down. So we'll put your medical degree down, Abby Adiemi. Because I imagine you don't have one. I don't have one too. But if you have any stories of when you use the internet to figure out what might be causing your ailments, and it didn't turn out well, or maybe it turned out well, I don't know. Let us know. Call our listener line 2047-883205, 2047-883205.
The cold of winter melted by an array of floral artistry to warm your soul. Fleur de Ville Artiste comes to the Leaf at Assiniboine Park January 16th to 26th. Be dazzled by figurines decorated in flowery fashions, designed by Manitoba's vibrant art scene and blossoming floral talent. Fleur de Ville Artiste, proudly sponsored by CBC. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
Manitoba's the kind of place that draws you in. Every day it's growing, it's changing. Just when you think you've got it figured out, though, there's something new to understand. I'm Marcy Marcuso, host of the CBC Daily Podcast. This is Manitoba. I've covered the news from the rail line in Churchill to the border in Emerson, and it's talking about the local stories that help us understand this place. That's what This is Manitoba is all about. Find it on CBC Listen or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Coming up to 21 minutes after 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. And, of course, on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Thanks very much for joining us today. The new Nestawaya River Trail warming huts are on the ice right now. In our last half hour, we heard about one inspired by Scottish castles and Manitoba grain elevators. CBC Manitoba community reporter Shanley Vidal is on the river there, on the frozen river, and this time she joins us from a different warming hut. Hi, Shanley.
Hi, Faith. I am at Rosemary School, and it actually looks like a giant birch bark basket. It's made out of snow. It's pretty incredible. We're actually right inside of it. There's a roaring fire here. There's actually like a whole separate other room here. And so it's called Rosemary School, and it was named after a roving gallery. And this warming hut was designed by Suzanne Morissette and Jamie Isaac of the Rosemary Gallery. Hello to you both.
Hello there.
Good morning. So first off, can you tell me about what the name Rosemary means?
Sure, it's a combination of our grandmother's names, Rose and Mary, and we wanted to put together a gallery and project space like Rosemary School to honor matriarchal leadership in our community.
What was the process of constructing this? Like, I understand you're using snow and clay?
Yeah, we've worked with an amazing team at Anvil Tree and Sputnik Architecture to both ideate and then complete this form. We've been working with local clay from the river here and also, of course, with the snow. And so you'll see it in the background. I'm not sure if we've got it on the camera here, but we've got one of our bricks for Rosemary School embedded within the basket itself.
So this is a warming hut, but it's so much more than a warming hut. People can go inside, they can get warm, there's a fire going, but it's designed to be an active space. Tell me a little bit about that. What's going to be happening there?
Yeah, we've got programming this weekend. So tonight, please come down. We're going to be having a video-based projection with artist Chukwudumum Ukegwe, 6:30 p.m. We'll have warm drinks. We'll have the fire going. And so that's happening tonight. Tomorrow, we have an artist workshop with Casey Adams, who'll be making pinch pots with people. And then that will be followed by a community feast. All are welcome and free to all.
Jamie, how much work was it to put this together?
Well, I think we worked with an amazing team with Anvil Tree and Sputnik Architecture. They do this every year. They're doing all kinds of things. So when we came up with the concept of building a snow form and a birch bark basket form, they were all for it. And it's been a really great experience from concept to realization. The forms that we see around is in an amphitheater kind of space, so that's really handy for the programming that we're going to be hosting throughout the duration of being on the river.
And it kind of takes warming hut to a whole other level, especially with that nice roaring fire here. So both of you were invited artists to be part of this and to create this warming hut. Why were you invited?
Yeah, we were so honored. We received the invitation last fall when we were just closing our first exhibition over on Main Street called Confluence. And it just felt like a natural progression of our work together to bring this idea outside and to think about how we can invite people in to share in the kind of programming that we do with artists.
And what do you hope that this here does for the community?
We hope, with Rosemary Gallery to build community and to connect with our community through the arts. And so we're on the confluence of the Red and Assiniboine rivers and building of the exhibition that we did at Rosemary Gallery called Confluence. We're hoping to build dialogue and continue connecting through the arts.
And what about you? What do you hope this does for the community?
I mean, I think we're really invested in thinking about ways that we can respond to needs within our community and giving artists opportunities to show their work and to have space for dialogue that's maybe existing outside of other institutional spaces. And so it's just such a real privilege. We're literally outside of other institutional spaces right now, being outside. But yeah, it's such an honor. We've got such a great lineup and hope everybody can come check it out.
And what's really cool about this warming hut, it's been constructed, but it's going to just be disappearing soon in a couple of months, right? So what was the thought behind that?
Well, we wanted this idea, thinking about an ephemeral state. And so all of the materials that are used within the form are going to go back into the river. The clay bricks that we made are also made from Manitoba clay 12 feet under the ground, and also gathered silt and made clay right from the river. And so when the melt comes, it's all just going to go right back into the river. And so there's something to be said just about, not using materials that we don't necessarily have to. This is going to be a place that's only going to be here for three months, if we're lucky. And we just wanted to create a space that would be ephemeral in nature and an evolution that would think about following climate and the environment.
Jamie Isaac, Suzanne Morissette, thank you both for making time to speak with me. Of course, these artists are from the Rosemary Gallery and creator of the Rosemary School Warming Hut. The designers are here with me right now, and we're going to go back to the studio. So back to you, Faith.
Thanks very much. CBC Manitoba community reporter Shanley Vidal live at the Forks. You can check out the new warming huts along the Nestawaya River Trail and do like what Shanley's guests did this morning, and make sure you wear your garbage mitts because it is cool out there. But it is going to get warmer. We'll give you a full look at your forecast still to come here on the program. If you weren't lucky enough to watch the screening of Universal Language at the Franco-Manitoban Cultural Centre last night, the film Universal Language has a film run at Cineplex Theatres in Winnipeg starting today. Matthew Rankin, the director from Winnipeg, spoke with me on Up to Speed. You can find an interview on CBC Listen. We're going to play, though, a tune from this Academy Award winner from the documentary looking back on his career and his final North American concert. Here's Elton John with Never Too Late.
It's never too late for a wide open slate, a kiss from a stranger, 1,000 first dates. You're an Iron Man, baby, to hell with heaven's gate. There's not a moment too soon if it's never too late. Oh, it's never too late to go shoot out the moon. We'll go dancing in graveyards. You can keep your balloons. Be a runaway bride, trading gypsies for crumbs. If it's never too late for a moment too soon. Darling, don't bore me with the same old tight story. What's new in the news? Who's hot? Where's the glory? Only dwell in the past. For left in that time. Don't the years make jokes of all of us? Let the whole century slide. on a carousel, or walk in the snow. Don't let it cross your mind. Keep a smile upon your lips. Spin round the sun like the veil never slips.
That's Elton John with Never Too Late, one of the contenders in the Best Original Song category for the 97th Academy Awards. The Oscars to be handed out March 2nd. Your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, we've got some light and blowing snow. It is -11 right now in Winnipeg. It's going to be snowy and mild through the day, a high today of -2. A longtime resident of the Manwin Hotel says he and others who live there should not be forced to leave. Inspectors from the City of Winnipeg say parts of that Main Street building are unsafe. 34 tenants have been ordered to find other accommodations. One is Ken, who was not comfortable telling CBC his last name. Ken says he feels safe in the Manwin and shouldn't be forced out of his home.
Why should I have to go to a homeless shelter? Right? Why should I have to go down in life? Taking me years just to get myself stable at this point.
If the order to vacate stands, Ken worries what will happen to his neighbors, some of whom have physical and intellectual impairments. An appeal hearing is set for February 10th. More than 200 people at the National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg will soon be out of a job. The Union of Health and Environment Workers represents federal government employees at the lab. It says the Public Health Agency of Canada says the federal government is not renewing contracts of more than 800 employees nationally, including 245 at the Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg. The Public Health Agency tells Radio-Canada its time-limited funding for the COVID-19 response is coming to an end, and contracts for current temporary employees will not be renewed. Some Winnipeggers are feeling confused over the way the province is handling consultations around a proposed supervised consumption site. Manitoba's Minister in charge of addictions, Bernadette Smith, previously said federal regulations required consultations within a radius of 500 meters. But Health Canada says there is no such rule around geographic distance, only the stipulation the province must consult. Smith now says the province is casting an even wider net.
We're going above and beyond. Like there's rivers, there's rail lines. We're not, we don't really have, a number of meters.
The minister says consultations are ongoing with more set to take place in the coming weeks. The National Council of Canadian Muslims says it's time Canada's political culture had a makeover. Earlier this month, Manitoba PC leadership hopeful Wally Dowdrich was asked to apologize for sharing an Islamophobic post on his Facebook page. The shared post included the comment, "We must stop Muslim Abi Khan from winning the race." Khan also is running to be the party's next leader. The council's provincial advocacy officer, Sadaf Ahmed, says this type of rhetoric is becoming more common, especially when trying to appeal to a particular base.
There's a direct link between hostile rhetoric toward particular communities and the manifestation of harassment and violence.
A group of 17 organizations is joining the National Council in now calling for a review of Dowdrich's candidacy. A Winnipeg immigration lawyer says the return of Donald Trump to the White House appears to be spurring some people to look into moving to Canada. Sophia Mirza is a partner at Fillmore Riley. She's received requests from American business owners thinking about trying to run their businesses from Canada. And she says others, like those on work or study permits, have also been inquiring about temporary or permanent moves.
The majority of the inquiries that I've been getting over the last couple of months have been related to individuals that are looking to leave the United States and come to Canada.
Mirza says people have explicitly said they have concerns or were uncertain about what to expect in the U.S. and wanted to keep their options open. The city of Brandon has seen a 77% increase in people experiencing homelessness since 2021. The city's point-in-time homeless count identified 229 unhoused people last October, a jump of 100 people compared to 2021. Heather Symbolisti is the executive director of Samaritan House Ministries. It runs the city's only overnight shelter. Symbolisti says the 41-bed shelter sees about 50 people every night.
When you add it all together, people are just scrambling. Just trying to make basic rent is challenging in these times. So yeah, I think that this is just the start. I think that this summer and the fall will show even more.
In 2024, the Safe and Warm Shelter had about 540 visitors. You can find more news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. I'm Faith Fundal. Abby Adiemi also back for more on the weather. Hello. Oh, we'll get to Abby in a moment here. First, though, May McKillop has a look at the commute.
You know, we've gotten a lot of calls, so I'll just get through my list quick here. We have a stalled vehicle on southbound Lajamodier between Perimeter and Headmaster Road. Vehicles in the right lane, as well a collision on northbound Route 90, just south of Scurfield. And north on Route 90, if you're driving south, Route 90 in Inkster is very backed up. As well a closure at Redwood. Emergency crews are blocking the northbound lanes on McGregor. And we just got a call about westbound Provincial Trunk 190. Approaching West Perimeter, there's a jackknife semi that's slowing traffic down quite a bit. Travel safe, everyone, and thanks for the phone calls.
Thanks very much. Abby Adiemi back now. Hello.
Light snow from south to the northern part of the province with varying temperatures, and we will see that continue into the day. Breezy conditions also widespread. Temperatures ranging from -2 in the south to -13 up north. For Winnipeg today, we get to a high of -2.
Thanks very much, Abby Adiemi. And thanks to the folks who put our shows together, helped put our show together this week. Corey Funk, Kalkaren Mulugera, Sierra Sanders, Chidi Akuma, Marshall Hodgins, Dylan Longhurst, Issa Kickson, Chloe Friesen, Bruce Layden, our current affairs reporter, Shanley Vidal, Jim Agapito, and our videographer, Jason Epson. Our YouTube producer is Kevin Nipatebo. Of course, Abby Adiemi, our tech, our show director, May McKillop, Wendy Parker, producer of The Noon Show. Nelly Gonzalez is the producer of our current affairs unit, Leif Larson, senior producer of audio.